The
Okay.
broadcast is live.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. This is me, Andrea, and Douglas. We've
Hello.
been getting together every New Year's Eve for
Yeah,
like,
I mean, when I
oh,
first started with this thing, literally my first time I ever broadcast with you guys was I came on when you guys were doing a New Year's show, and I guess the hosts were you and Lou Landers. But I came on as the first time, and we wound up talking till like 4 a.m. Now
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't plan on talking till 4 a.m. tonight, but we'll talk.
we never
We'll talk to
do.
one or two.
You never plan it, okay? But anyway, we like to do New Year's Eve because we're old and we're like sitting at home thinking like we're not gonna. Douglas was saying that usually, like this year, he doesn't have to even feel like antisocial because nobody's going out for New Year's,
Yeah.
and
At least
so
nobody might. I mean, if I was 22, then people are going out. But at 40, at
I'm
51,
sorry.
nobody.
You get to a certain age where you just think like it's not worth it to go out on New Year's Eve. I mean, you do. You get to a stage where like you weigh out your options and just the out going out like the whole New York drop the ball and all of this. I was never a fan of that
I
anyway.
really, yeah, I growing up in Chicago, and we always had a sort of a closet dislike of New York as a whole, and I never really got into it for that reason. Yeah, we watched it.
I mean, if you were a terrorist, where would you target? Like, I mean, I know you would target like Super Bowl or New Year's Eve in New York. Like, what? I mean, that would be devastating. And I don't care how much security, which I know they have a ton of security, right? I know that they have like snipers and shit on every corner, like, I mean, ready to go. But I feel like I don't want to ever be in a place where it's so crowded that, like, if an emergency
I mean,
happens,
honestly, I've been to places. I can't imagine sitting out. No matter how much you love New York as a New Yorker, even as a 25-year-old, I can't imagine like thinking like, you know what I want to do? I want to sit out at midnight in 10-degree weather
they have
for
to
two or
camp
three hours.
overnight. They have to
For
camp.
for
If
two
you
or
don't,
3 hours.
I mean, a hotel room, okay, down there is already like $250, just like the basic. And the rooms are like about as big as your closet in your master bedroom. It literally is that big. And so, no, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like,
No,
it is
I
so.
actually do know because second honeymoon we went to we actually went to New York and we stayed in some hotel, and it was among their cheapest rooms, and it was a nice hotel, but we were
And
like
it was
this little
250
bitty
bucks.
room, this
Yes.
little
And
bitty
then,
room.
so you say that, and then think of New Year's Eve. It's like $6,000 to get a room. And if you don't get a room, then people, just like with the Macy's Thanksgiving parade,
Yeah,
people camp out overnight. So you're thinking like I mean, it hasn't snowed that much here, but they would be out there in the snow too, right?
well, yeah, we've
And
seen it. I mean,
think
we're
about all
all
the people that reserved rooms like 5 years ago for 2021 New Year's Eve, and like what that would just be the worst thing to happen if you were like planning to go down there before this, because you can't even plan within the year. It has to be planned like years in
yeah.
advance.
No, I have. I mean, what I normally would do for a living revolves around
Plan
time
within the year. It has
revolves around timeshare
years in
real estate,
advance.
and people are making plans years in advance on that stuff. And the truth is, they were all screwed this year, and include myself included, because there's no business. Who wants to come to anywhere? Yeah,
Well,
but
okay, so we'll say
we
hi
have
to Malpal in the chat room. If you guys,
Mal Pellet says he wants Arby's drive-through.
I know that was his.
What'd you have for dinner tonight?
I made broccoli cheddar soup, like nothing special.
I,
Just
I went out and I got a pizza from the Lone Chicago Pizza place in Orlando. Well, they have two locations, and I got a deep dish pizza.
they were talking on the news about this different trending grocery items that have changed since the lockdown. People are cooking more at home, and they're trying to like recreate their best restaurant's favorite dish, like um, hamburgers. Getting hamburgers like with heavy cream is one of them that has grown up, like is very popular now, because
Remember the heavy cream?
people are making their favorite desserts. I know it. I mean, there's this red velvet cake at TGI Fridays, and you know, I must have eaten it since the lockdowns. I know that my pants are not fitting the same, my shirts are not fitting the same, so I have to do something. At least I have, an easy New Year's Eve resolution, right? Like get in
Well,
better shape, because I'm
same
at
as
like the
everybody.
lowest point. Everybody's at home eating, dude.
I noticed that. Like I'm a very good. I believe I'm a very good cook. I cooked for 20 years professionally, believe it or not. and I really am horrible at baking. And when I spent a little time studying baking, I found that it wasn't worth the effort because you could just buy these mixes and it's pretty much the same thing, you know. But so I like having those mixes around. And this year, because everybody's baking, those mixes I used to be able to buy 10 for $1 and just stock up on them. That'd be enough for the year. And now they're all like $2.50 each because everybody is making brownies and making cakes out of these dumb things. Like these are the cheap stuff, you know.
I love my family being here. I'm sorry, I'm not even listening to you. I totally, completely like switched gears, and I've been looking. I found the chat. Usually, I'm not that good at seeing the chat from Facebook in the studio that you use for this particular it's called StreamYard. So I don't ever see comments until it's way too late or like after the show I see comments. But I'm so glad I found it because like my family being here. Listening to you. My family, Daniel is here. My his mom, Terry, is my cousin. Terry talks about tacos because the one thing that I miss being on the West, I mean, not the one thing, I miss a lot of things. And I will never be a New Yorker. I will always be the West Coast person. But one thing you cannot get here, even though you can get the best pizza, the best bread, you can't get tacos. You can't get tacos
Really?
like at my house. Yes, because, and I figured out why. It took me a couple years. I mean, I tried everything, but it's really all about the location. Like the peppers that they grow are not the same as the peppers that grow on the West Coast. So like there's all these different types of hot peppers, and the ones that make the best hot sauce, those do not grow over here. We get like, dude, we get like Colombian Mexican food and stuff. And I'm telling you, there's no better Mexican food than the West Coast. And my family is by far the best tacos.
My third wife was Mexican. Her father was born in Mexico. And I remember sitting with her mother and her making authentic Mexican tacos. And they were very much nothing like what I'm used to as a taco, you know, because I mean, they made the masa and they sort of like put all the stuff inside it and then cooked it all at once. And I thought, well, that's weird. It's not what I see as a taco, but everyone has a feeling of what they want as a taco. The one thing that I've always, I spent about 10 years of my life is doing like a travel blog, which I had some notoriety with. And the one thing I would say, because I'd go to podunk towns and I'd go to like waterfalls and caves and stuff like that, is that the Mexicans can like, if you're looking for a place to eat in the middle of nowhere, it's like try to eat, you know, local, but if you can't find local, eat the Mexican food because the Mexicans are everywhere and it's almost good everywhere.
Well, you know? I don't know if it's good everywhere, but I will say that no matter what, there's places in California, in Arizona, and in the Northwest, which like Portland and Washington. So there's this, it's an idea of, I'll tell you that like the dream Mexican food for me, it's like in the middle of the night, these 24-hour drive-throughs. You can find them, and like in the different states, they have different names, but they end in Berto a lot, like Alberto's, Filberto's, like all these Bertos. If you see a Berto's, a 24-hour drive-through, and like they have the best bean and cheese burrito ever, and it comes with these little, they're like little plastic containers with lids. They have taco sauce in it. It's like almost an orange red color, and they have these rolled tacos and crispy. Like if you order tacos, they're crispy, right? They're like totally bad for you, but they're the best munchy food. And you just don't ever find crunchy tacos or shredded beef. Like there's no such. You don't even have shredded beef in Florida, I don't think.
I mean, there are some good taco places here, but I'm
looking. Your tacos are always like on these little corn tortillas, right, with some cilantro on top and.
I go to this little Mexican place, been around about 10 years, called Chilangos over there on 4th River in Longwood, if you're there, and they make really good everything. And you know, they were born in Mexico, and you know they've been able to.
Mexico over there is different than the Mexico over here.
Well, I mean, you know what it is. What it is the length of time they've been here. I noticed this with I studied German. My chess coach was a German national, right? And he used to take me to this German place, and I'd eat there, and I thought that was great German food because he told me it was. Then I met other Germans, and they said, "You know why he likes that place?" And I said, "Why?" It's because they make German food. They've been gone from Germany for 80 years. They make German food the way that they made German food in 1930, right? If you went there today, if you went to Germany today, the food would be different. But he likes that. He has that picture in his head because he remembers Germany when he was 8 years old. And I think that you get that sort of different thing. Like, I think that the New York Mexicans are third generation American Mexicans or fourth generation American Mexicans.
No. Believe me, dude, it's different because, like, if you think of Italian food and you go to one specific location in Italy, it's different than the other locations. Like,
yeah, there is that a bit. Yes,
it is because of the farming, the agricultural abilities in that specific area. Plus, my cousin did say that it has something to do with the flavoring, which is like chorizo is a huge secret, which you can't really get good Mexican chorizo, but you can get Salvadorian chorizo and like Dominican chorizo. It's weird.
It's part of Cajun cooking too, so that comes through Louisiana.
Whatever it is, it's like not what I'm used to. So it's this
there is
like what your idea of a taco is probably not the same as mine or whatever. But like when people complain about leaving New York and they can't get good pizza and stuff, I say at least you have good tacos. That's what I say. We have Malpal here in the chat room. He's from San Diego. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Berto.
We're talking about food.
I love talking about food for real.
There's the place I loved in Atlanta was called Taco Veloz, and you get that really great lengua. You ever have tongue tacos?
Yes, that's not good.
I love tongue.
Lengua is not good.
Really?
No.
It's like,
neither is this soup that they have menudo in the morning. It's not good. Chorizo is really not good if you think about what's in it, what they use to make it. But okay, let's
Hey, we're here to talk baseball.
Yes, we are going to talk baseball, and I just wanted to reiterate what we were talking about earlier. Douglas and I have had so many disagreements, right? We disagree on a lot of things politically, and it's so. I feel like it's just. I'll just say what I have to say, then you can go ahead. I feel like it's really nice and refreshing to be able to disagree with somebody politically and then talk baseball the next day, or like we leave it out of the chat room at the website. We don't talk about
95% of the time. We keep it out. It's a little piece. But
like,
anyway.
I try really hard not to let it boil over to that. But a lot of people can't. You find out who your friends are. I mean, honestly, we've lost a lot of friends that really.
Did you ever see the movie City Slickers?
No.
There's a thing in there where Billy Crystal's talking about how he and his dad hated each other. But he's like, but the thing about baseball was we could watch a game together.
Right.
And that's what it historically had been.
I think that not only that, but heading into the new year, I'm really going to, I would love to try to find a way to find commonalities with other people, because for real, I think this is a time where we need to stick together, because we need to fight the swampy government together. Like the whole thing needs to be gutted. But let's go back. You want to go back?
I'll say my piece. If you wind up watching this for all 3 hours, there's probably going to be 15 minutes that somewhere in here that is going to be a little over the top, and we apologize up front. But we both have mutual respect for each other, especially when it comes to the sports thing. I'll give you an example just this week. Like last time we got together, we had a couple good hours, and it digressed at the very end. But in that, we both took something from what the other person said. And that's because we respect each other's opinions. In that, the one thing that Andrew was saying over and over again was like how players like Javi Baez, who didn't have access to the tapes that they once had because they were cracking down on the film, and they had worse years because of that. And I thought, you know what? There's something to this. And because this year baseball is going to be closer to 2020 than it is going to be to 2019.
They're not going to allow those cameras in the. They're not going to allow you to watch videos in the dugout.
I feel that you have convinced me that I have to count 2020 more than I was going to.
Oh, because of that.
Because of that, and you throw in the fact like I mean, you're a big fan of Trevor Bauer. One of the reasons why I think he had a great year was because there are certain players that train well by themselves, and Bauer's one of those guys.
Yeah, and so like depending on what you did while you were locked down.
So if somebody had a shortened training season this year, and you throw in the fact that they're no longer seeing film within the game, and you throw in the fact that maybe they react differently playing in front of an empty stadium, it's like we have to give 2020 a greater value. In the same show, I was talking about first baseman, which we'll probably talk about a little more tonight, and I said something about Jared Walsh, and you kind of ran him off. And then
I love him. I love him.
Just last Saturday, I heard you talk about Jared Walsh. It's like we're getting through to each other, no matter how much we yell at each other.
Yeah. Don't. I mean, I guess it was just from. I'm like half. I have not done. I've been considering doing the draft guide. I'm like, I have all the projections. Like I'm all the way up here. Like I've been able to pull in the batting orders, like from RotoChamp. I can pull the information right in, so I could see right there like I've done some really cool things, but I just haven't followed through with like putting it all together.
I really wanted to do rankings because I saw what Kevin Hastings did last year, and he spent all his time ranking players.
Yes, and then
he was so successful at the end, but I have problems with rankings, and if you go through the notes of which we talk about,
you don't have to do the rankings. You just have to write a profile for each person. You don't have to.
Anyways, like I'm having trouble with it because there are people that I feel I should rank like 7th or 8th at a position who there's no way in hell I'm ever going to draft them.
That's why we don't do rankings like that.
You know what I mean? I feel like I have to rank Pete Alonso no lower than 9th, but there's no way I'm drafting Pete Alonso.
Talking about a guy, okay. So he has a decent batting average, but for the most part, he's 3 true outcomes. That's what he is. He's like every at bat.
The thing about it at first base, and this is sort of in our notes, so we'll go through this real quick in my head. When I'm ranking first baseman, okay, I think that there are 3 guys that I think are difference makers at the top. Maybe it's 2.5. It depends on how you really categorize DJ LeMahieu, right? You have Cody Bellinger, you have Freddie Freeman, and I have them in reverse order than how I feel they are. And then you have this like kind of middle pack grouping, which are guys that are you have these 2 young guys that might hit a lot of home runs in Alonso and Voit. Then you have this middle pack grouping of Goldschmidt, Rizzo, Abreu. I don't know if there's any other ones, but Abreu. And there are some advantages to one. Like
Carlos
I think
Santana is still worthy, dude. I don't know. Nobody loves Carlos Santana.
I don't like. I mean, unless you're in an OBP league, and I play in very few of those. Carlos Santana is not really that good of a first baseman.
Well, it depends on where he goes. Look at where he's going. Okay,
He's going to the Royals. We're talking baseball. This is fine. We got time to kill. Keep talking.
We're talking about ADP, which is average draft position, and that's what we need to base the value of the player on.
I mean,
if you can get Carlos Santana, like let's say if you have to skip a position early, and sometimes this is why we want to talk about positions, depth at positions, because Carlos Santana, dude, is like corner infielder, or even, I mean, he only qualifies at first base. So, I mean, it's kind of nice to have somebody that, qualifies at more than one spot. But Carlos Santana, for where he's going, I'm going to look him up right now, and you could say what you think of him.
Well, I was going to say that, yeah, one thing I was going to tell you is that I've been involved in a league that doesn't have corner infielder. And so you really have to think in terms of if you're in a 12-team league, who are the 12 best first basemen? Or a 15 league, who are the 15 best first basemen? And okay. I don't think I'm picking Carlos Santana.
What about Trey Mancini?
Trey Mancini is interesting. Like it seems to me that there's, we talk about, taking a wild stab at something. Yeah, you can draft Trey Mancini with the 200th pick, and if it doesn't work out, you can fall back to Joey Votto or something, right?
Look where Carlos Santana is. Okay, just look where he is. His ADP right now is 304. I got to get my calculator open.
Well, this is the thing about average versus OBP league. It's like, I know that Lenny has said in the past that he doesn't like rankings because they don't really tell the true story of what you're trying to buy. Like you're trying to buy stolen bases, you're trying to buy average, you're trying to buy home runs, right? So you might pick somebody, you might go to the 17th second baseman because they're better at stolen bases versus the 12th because that's what you need. So the ADP and the rankings don't really tell the story. You remember him saying that? And the problem with Carlos Santana to me is if you're in an average league, he's actually a detriment on batting average, and I'd rather take a flyer on somebody that could at least tread water at that level, like a Trey Mancini.
What if he only? I mean, you talked earlier about the importance of 2020 stats, and we're talking Carlos Santana. He's 30. He'll be 30. I mean, maybe he's 35 or 34 going into this season. Okay, he's old, right? As far as baseball is concerned, he's old. But when was the last time he had a batting average? Before this past 2020, he did not have a good season at all. And you could, I mean, I guess.
Well,
look,
I mean, when
never
I
been
think
great with batting
off
average.
the top of my head, yeah, I would say he's like a 250 hitter at best, probably a little under that.
He had one good season of 281, and the rest he was at like 250
and lower.
And lower, yes. His career batting average is only 248, and that includes the great season that he had in 2019.
Have you ever like there's another player who is very well respected who falls in the same category, and that's Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez in a batting average league is death to your team.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
because
you can't rely on Santana in an average league, and if you're trying to find a guy. But for a corner outfielder, you could do a lot worse than him, because where he hits in the batting lineup, his power is like, you know, you can't deny his power, and it hit him in the
there are other guys in that same. I
like
mean, one
Brandon Belt, he never gets any love.
In who?
Brandon Belt. No love for
Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt's an interesting guy because I looked at him. I joined this league, and it may be falling apart. It's a dynasty league, but it was going to have fielding as part of the thing, right? And Brandon Belt was the number one player overall in 2020 in that league because you got like a third of a point per.
So he would be good in Stratomatic.
Yeah, but this is the thing. So I wrote off Brandon Belt in my head because I didn't really watch him play. I just assumed that this was the case. I assumed that Brandon Belt.
Hold on a second.
I assume that Brandon Belt, like a lot of players, didn't play a lot of games.
You're on the air.
Hey,
are
you guys having people live again for New Year's, or just you two?
Yes, we're live. We're live right now.
If you want to be on live, yeah, she'll give you a link.
In the chat room.
Well, no, I'm in the chat room, but are you guys having like people live discussions, like with people?
Yes, if you want to come, do you want to come on?
We're celebrating a new year by talking baseball.
Like last year, I think for just a little bit, that'd be cool.
We would love to have you, dude. So, do you see the link in the chat room? Let me give it to you again. Okay.
I'm going to talk about Brandon Belt. So,
do you remember the Rottweiler? Do you remember?
Yeah, Rottweiler. He's a good dude.
Yes, very good. Okay.
I would say he's a friend of mine. I would say
you're a friend of his. Douglas, he can't hear you, but
well, this is my Brandon Belt story. I assume that Brandon Belt had a great year because he wasn't stuck in Candlestick Park. A lot of people played a weird number of games in that. Then I went to look it up, and the truth is,
it's in the chat room now.
Brandon Belt had, even though he only had 2 home runs at home, he played 29 games out of 60 at home, and he had a better OPS at Candlestick Park than he did at Coors Field.
Well, some players are just random like that, but you know that if he hits that good in Candlestick Park, imagine what he would do outside of that.
The thing about it is that he had 2 home runs in Candlestick Park of the whatever 12 that he had. So his power is diminished, but he's hitting doubles and stuff while he's there. And I think that
he's so overlooked, dude, in fantasy baseball. If you forget about your biases about Brandon Belt being just so mediocre, and like, I wish George was here because he would say just how he is.
I mean, the truth is you can't separate him from the fact that you can literally pick him off the cut pile in most leagues, pick him with the 26th pick on your team.
Seriously, how do you even recommend any other guy at that point?
But that's the sort of thing. Like if I don't have the pick to get Freeman or LeMahieu or
okay, but there's still other good first basemen, dude. Good, there's other good ones.
And I don't feel comfortable with where I'm picking Abreu, Rizzo, Goldschmidt, and I'm not going to pick.
So you don't like picking Abreu?
I think I really do believe, if you really look at him, that there's not a whole lot of difference between Anthony Rizzo and Jose Abreu. And in the past, Jose Abreu has been underrated and Anthony Rizzo has been overrated. This year, it's reversed.
Have you ever?
They've switched spots. I mean, you're looking at about the same home runs.
No.
Rizzo a little bit more.
No.
About the same runs batted in, about the same runs scored. No. Abreu has a little bit better average over time, but it's only by about 10 or 11 points. You know, they're pretty similar players, and I think that Abreu is going to be as overdrafted, and it's not by much. Rizzo had been overdrafted for the last 4 or 5 years.
Rizzo, though, hasn't been that good since he hit age 29. I see him here. He's coming on. Add
players, and I think
Happy New Year.
As overdraft. Rizzo
Happy New Year.
Rizzo
hasn't been
Hey, Rod.
that good since
Yeah,
he
turn
hit
that off.
age
No, Happy
What
New
I
Year.
think
29.
I mean, in 2019, he had 27 home runs, batted 293, 94 RBIs, 89. I think we're getting reverb from
Yeah, I wish I knew how to mute him, dude. I was trying
Rottweiler.
to. Hey,
Rottweiler,
Rottweiler,
is there any way you can plug something in your ear so it doesn't come through twice?
I think you had the. No, you're
I think I
okay. I
fixed
think
it.
you had the chat room on. I think, and the video was
Okay,
in the background.
that's what it was. Great.
So say
Well,
hi
it was
now. Let's check it
Sorry
out.
about that.
That's okay, dude.
So in 2019, just the year before this year, his stats were 27 home runs, 94 RBIs, a 293 average, 89 runs scored,
We're
150
talking about your boy Brandon Belt right now, Nick. He's a huge San Francisco guy because he lives in San Francisco and he's a Giants fan. So
You know, the year,
yeah, your boy Brandon Belt, who's totally underrated.
I was actually targeting Brandon Belt in that league. I was like, I'll take Brandon Belt. I mean, I would really rather have Freddie Freeman. I probably would rather have Cody Bellinger.
This is like 22 rounds later than
Right, and that's the crazy thing about it. I'd probably rather have DJ Mayhew. But then once that, my plan was to take Brandon Belt and then take one of these upstart young first basemen that are going to get the shot this year.
What do you
And
think?
there's about 6 of them as kind of a backup plan. Like one of them should hit. What do you think of Brandon Belt?
I think in years past, I would never want to touch him in a fantasy league. But given the magic that happened at Oracle Park last year, a lot more homers are being hit. And I think that park is changing for a lot of guys to get more power.
He had 12 home runs last year. He only had 2 at Oracle Park. But it's a matter of, I don't know, like they're building confidence elsewhere.
Wait a minute. You said that there's a chance for them to get better stats offensively. What's that? Is there something changing about the ballpark?
Did they change something last year? Did you know of?
Well, yeah, they took out they installed the pitching areas in the back of the field, and so they're not near the bleachers any longer on the side. And so when they changed the dimensions of the park, that did something with the wind, and so a lot more balls came out of the ballpark this year. And they're stating that they believe it's because of the dimensions, and there's more.
I'm glad to hear that
pushing the balls out.
It's the first I've heard it. I'm going to believe you, Rottweiler, and that gives me even more comfortability drafting Brandon Belt this year.
Nobody is talking about this, and it's a
Melnick website exclusive.
Yes, it is breaking news. One of our guys, Malpal, in the chat room, he's in San Diego, has always been a Padres fan, and over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, they've completely transformed the Padres. Is it Petco Park? Whatever it is, they've been putting it was great for pitchers and horrible for hitters, but they've been putting seats in there. So now it's not so bad for hitters, which means it's worse for pitchers. And it's no longer considered like a ballpark that would make a pitcher better by going there, and San Francisco is just known for this.
Well, I mean, the crazy thing is the other crazy thing about Brandon Belt, and this is the thing, like we think based on what he's saying that this lets people hit. I was telling her that I joined this league that counts fielding, and you get like a third of a point for a first baseman put out. You get half a point for a second base for put out. And so Brandon Belt led all the majors in putouts at first base last year by a healthy margin. So somehow the Giants are hitting, yet the opposing teams are still hitting lots of ground balls. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I remember one of the stats at the end of last season, I think the Giants hit more singles or doubles or something than a lot of other teams in the league. They were like in first place for a while there, so it was no wonder it came down to the wire. But they like to throw in those relief pitchers, no matter who the manager is. They keep them in there and they lose games.
So that's my thinking is Brandon Belt is at least a quality fallback option. He's the new Mitch Moreland.
Well, Mitch Moreland is exactly. I mean, to me, it's like Mitch Moreland's totally underrated as well. But okay,
the problem with Mitch Moreland this year is he has no job.
Staying on the topic of the Giants, okay, since we have the biggest Giants fan and knowledge guy here. What do you think? I mean, I've been a fan of Kevin Gausman over the last couple years. Like when I saw that he was going to San Francisco, I liked him for sure. The fact that they paid him $18 million and how good was he? Here's what I know. I know he doesn't walk batters and he does strike. He has decent strikeouts, but is he like worth $18 million in a time like this? And I mean, I'm surprised even Stroman was signed for $18 million. I feel like you're talking, but I can't hear you.
He's a good SP3, no doubt. He's working with Andrew Bailey, so clearly he's getting his mechanics in order. And
Andrew Bailey,
he's a good SP3 this year, no doubt.
all I know is Andrew Bailey
Yeah.
is just a pitcher that never really made it in the majors, dude. That's what I know. Is there another Andrew Bailey?
Well, he did. Yeah, he did pretty well for Oakland for a while. No, that's the same guy. So he's on the Giants
Oh,
pitching
he's
staff
now?
now.
Okay. Well, you think he's a middle of the rotation pitcher is what you're saying?
For fantasy baseball purposes,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you get like a 1-1 strikeout, which isn't bad, and he's not going to kill you in the WHIP or the ERA. So he's definitely a good anchor for sure. But you guys, you can't have him be your ace of the staff. That's for sure.
What's his pitch? I think that he has a variety of pitches that he uses, and one of them it has like a ton of movement. I think I can't remember specifically. I wish I had his notes in front of me. I wasn't really planning on talking about the Giants, but let's talk about another Giant that I've always had a crush on. It's Wilmer Flores. Wilmer Flores signed with the Giants last season, but he signed for multiple seasons. So for me, going into last year was like he's going to get a spot because they signed him for multiple seasons. They're not just going to bench a guy that they signed for more than 1 year. What's going forward? They like Wilson Ramos, right? I mean, Wilmer Flores.
Oh yeah, he is a great addition. Like the way he was playing for Arizona the year before the Giants picked him up before that injury, man, he was top baseball. And then all of a sudden, same thing happens. I watched a little article on him about when he teared up when he was from the Mets that year, and he had no idea that was happening.
Yes, that happened.
Yeah, and he's just an overall good ball player, good guy. So
Just utility
he
guy.
plays a good batting average.
You know, he used to hit lefties so much better than righties. It was almost like he was destined to be a platoon player. And now he's really evened out those splits completely. So, I mean, it's kind of a downer in daily because I used to always like rush to Wilmer Flores whenever a lefty was going up, against him. And now it's like he hits both of them pretty good, really. He's just whatever. He would be a great addition to a team. What about position eligibility? I wonder what leagues are going to do for position eligibility this year. Usually it's, I would say, like, my opinion would be to just divide it by 3 because 60 games was about a third of the season. And so if it was a 15-game minimum to be eligible at a certain position, then that would become 5. And when you go that low, you think like, God, there's going to be so many position eligible players, but
it really isn't.
No,
There were only 60 games, and so it's amazing how many players that used to have position eligibility don't have it this year.
that's true. A lot of players like Justin Turner, he's no longer, dude, very valuable because he used to play first, second, third base. That was wonderful. It's not the case anymore. What do you think about position eligibility, Nick? What do you think it should be?
I don't know.
That's a tough one. It's going to be league by league, but realistically, it should be shortened. It was a short season, so divided by a third. If he's usually 15, use the simple logistics.
Yeah, that's I'm all about simple logistics here.
It seems to me that most I play mostly Yahoo, and I actually have always liked their They're rather lenient.
So
stat.
then basically you only have to
But-
play no games at any position.
But no, but what if you?
$12,000.
But many of the other like NFA BC is 20. So what do you think they should do? It's not as
I
easy
think
as
they do a
7,
third.
8.
A
7,
third
8.
of 20. A third of 20 is like 6 or 7. 6 or 7 at a
Yeah.
position should make you eligible. Moving forward, what else? Do you have anything else you want to say about San Francisco? We've been doing some mock drafts, and
What do you? I think that Mauricio DeBon is right now slated to be their center fielder. Is he any good?
He's got,
A little delay, I
some
guess.
power and
Yeah.
speed when he's healthy. He was
Do you have a
producing.
health issue?
Who are they going to pick up? You know,
That is
but then
a-
he got
I don't
injured, but
It seems to me like for half a decade, it sounded since the World Series runs of the Giants, it's been kind of the story in terms of that they were hoping to find a guy who could play center field for them, worried more about the fielding than a particular bat. And I think they actually found him 2 years ago in Kevin Pillar, and then after a half year of it, they said, "Nah, we don't really want that anymore."
what's up with Pilar? Why has he been on so many teams? Okay, why? Because he's not a bad player. Why
they
did
didn't want to pay him. Age, they used to pay him.
they don't want to pay him? Is that the consensus that I'm hearing?
Well, on the Giants, they didn't because his age. They wanted to go with younger core guys, and they didn't think that they would be contending, so they didn't want to offer him. I think they were giving him 7.8. It wasn't even picking him, but they said no thanks.
here's a
So
guy,
let's see what
he
happens.
went to Boston. He helped out Boston. Boston's not. They're just. I don't know when I could even
That was in
possibly.
Colorado too.
What about the Giants' other pitching signing, DeSclafani? Is that gonna make a difference?
He's got to be better in
Hey,
San Francisco. dude.
He's a guy that
I
I've
think
always
he's like
liked.
a Gosman.
Yeah.
Why? What do you like about him? Or just does he not? He had a horrible year last year, as far as I can remember. I'm not
Yeah,
positive.
no, I think it was he had like almost a 6 ERA last year. But going into last year, he had a number of decent years, including some really quality stretches. And he was a guy that a lot of people in the fantasy industry were sort of talking up on the periphery of pitchers. And but
Yes, he was. He had some juice going into last season, that's for sure. But
I think the Giants thing helps him out.
what do you think of this football player getting all of his money in Bitcoin? He's asking to be paid in Bitcoin. I think that this is a good time to bring that up.
Half his salary is in Bitcoin. Isn't that weird?
What's his name?
Russell Okung. He's a tackle for the Panthers, I believe. I'm not a big football fan.
Did he
But I
say
saw
what was his reasoning for this?
I do not know. Hey, it's a thing. Like Bitcoin, depending on who you're talking to, is either like this miracle investment, or something that is totally a fabrication of people's dreams, or a way to peddle money. I mean, I'll be honest. I made a little money, a way of peddling drugs or other things that are illegal. I made a little money in Bitcoin myself because you guys remember Black Friday?
Dude, I remember. Yes, I remember with the pizza.
When poker went illegal.
It's always been illegal, as far as I knew.
No, online poker was legal until April 15th of, I believe it was 2008 or 9. And so I had this money, not a lot, like $1,000 or something, stuck overseas. That the illegality, it wasn't illegal for me to play that money. It was illegal for me to withdraw that money. So the one thing that they let me do is they let me convert it to Bitcoin to withdraw it. And I converted to Bitcoin and I forgot to withdraw it. And then like 10 years later, I was able to get like $18,000.
No, that's not a joke either. It was worth it.
It's a real thing. I thought it was
Every time I think that it's like hit its max, dude, it just keeps going up. Like about a couple months ago, it was like $4,000 less than it is now per Bitcoin.
Yeah,
So this guy, I looked him up while you were talking, and I found out his reasoning for getting paid in Bitcoin is that when we're all paid in Bitcoin, no one can tell us what to do with the value that we create. So
what does that mean?
here's my view. Like, I'm always afraid to invest in it because I think, well, what happens is not backed up by anything. And then I tell myself, like, nothing's really backed up by anything. There's really, maybe it's backed up by something, but really, how sure are we in the central bank system, in the American dollar? Like, I don't know. It could falter just like any other way of paying. The Bitcoin is like kind of risky because who's backing it up? Like, but really,
Well, I mean, in theory, it's backed up by the producing power of the United States. But the reality of the American dollar is that no matter how much we, being in the first world, think that we're in trouble with this, when like we had the last downturn of the economy, the stock market failure crash that went, it's like what did the rich people in China and in Brazil and India do? They bought dollar bills because they know that the dollar bills are always going to have value. And what props up the value of any money is people's perception of the fact that it can get you things in the future. And the problem with Bitcoin to me, and we still haven't seen the end of it, is that I have this story about owning Bitcoin. Have either of you guys owned any Bitcoin?
yes, I've owned Bitcoin.
Okay, well, so now we're at 2/3 of the people on the show, which is probably way higher than the average. I would say it's probably, how many people do you think, if you 100 random people in America, how many people have actually owned Bitcoin? Do you think like 4, 5?
Oh, way more than that, dude. I would say, yeah, because depending on where you live, there's Bitcoin vending machines. There's Bitcoin.
You live in New York, and that's there's a lot more transactions that go on in bigger cities with lots of people.
I guarantee there's Bitcoin vending machines in Silicon Valley, right by our friend Nick Rottweiler, dude.
The point I'm trying to get to is that with less people being a part of it, and we could assume that far less people have owned Bitcoin than have owned a dollar bill.
Very true to that. Okay. Anyway, he wants to be paid in Bitcoin. He says nobody can tell him what to do with the value that he creates. That means, so who pays taxes? He's still going to owe
That
taxes.
is the thing.
Like, he
that's
doesn't not going to escape the taxes from his
the valuation on the taxes might be the downfall on that, because IRS might say it's worth more than it is. We don't really know how much.
How do they? Well, they value it based on what the going rate is. On it's easy to find out how much it's worth. But anyway, what do you? I find that I'm intrigued by it because I'm like on the verge of saying, like, why should I keep paying taxes to these people? Why should I keep paying taxes when all they do is throw my money out the fucking window? Okay, that's what I wonder.
Wherever that window is, let me know where it is.
It's got.
I'll stand outside.
I don't know if you see Rand Paul comes out every year with this thing called Festivus, and it goes over all of the waste in Washington, the swamp. It goes through all the waste, $54 billion wasted on things, and he lists them all, and some of them are like unbelievable. Like, we've seriously lost. It says lost drones over Afghanistan. The number of drones that we've lost is like, I don't know, $10 billion worth of drones. We just lost it. We lost it. No, not billion, but it was 4.9.
There's a lot of money in that. But the reality is that I think that I'd rather have a drone go over there and get lost than what we were doing before.
What is going on?
We were flying F-4 Wild Weasels over there, which were really small planes that were manned by people, and when they got shot down, human beings got shot down.
There's no reason for us to. I don't believe that we're losing shit. I believe that it's going into people's pockets. I do not believe that we lost. Like, for the VA, one of the expenses was like $3 billion on ordered stuff that hasn't come yet. Like, missing orders.
Yeah,
Billions. Like, wait a minute. You're telling me that nobody knows like how to get a refund, or like, nobody's, and the fact that it just goes into people's pockets. And the people get richer while the middle class is very much suffering right now. People need money bad.
You guys don't think Bitcoin is going to be hacked at some point?
Yeah, the question is, like, aren't there little baby Bitcoins too that people trade?
Well, there's different variances of Bitcoin, and that's why it was interesting. Which variants did he choose? Because the main Bitcoin is valued at 29,000 something right now. That's significant.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Is like, as much as he gets paid, he's probably getting like 1 Bitcoin a week.
Like 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin was worth $19,000. Now it's worth $29,000. So if you had 1 Bitcoin, you was $10,000.
Yeah, no, it is a crazy thing. But
Yep.
I don't
And-
know.
and- 2016, you could have got a Bitcoin for $375.
Yes. Okay. And it was cheaper than that. And like look at like 2010 price. You'll be like crazy. It's like maybe $12 or something
Well,
like that.
that's my story about Bitcoin. Is I got it in 2008 or 9. And
But
it was-
Bitcoin used to be completely anonymous. They figured out that there's a blockchain. You can actually see how much is being taken in and out of every Bitcoin wallet. So it's not as secure, like as anonymous as it used to be. If you can definitely see transactions
that's what
happening.
Well,
Is
they
that
just filed for a new SEC filing for Bitcoin ETF,
What's that
but-
mean?
so that
Uh,
they're going to be able to be tracked.
Is that rather than you buying Bitcoin, they can buy shares of Bitcoin and roll it into a stock that you can buy that stock.
Now
Yeah.
they're
Mutual
taxing you
funds
on
with it.
cryptocurrency. You have to pay taxes on your crypto, dude. They're telling you.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know that because I thought, I mean, it had been, I mean, I've been out of banking now for 6 or 7 years, but when I was in banking, the federal stance on Bitcoin was that it was what do you call it? It was counterfeit money. Like it was actually illegal, you know, like in those days, like you could do it, but you had to do it overseas. You couldn't do it in America.
You
they
can
must
do it on the dark web. The dark
Doing
web.
on a cruise ship.
Yeah, that was it. Like I literally withdrew my money when I took a trip to Rome. It's like, okay, I'm in Rome. I may as well do this.
When in Rome.
Okay, so
Get your Bitcoin.
I think that's good. I think that's a little crazy. I don't know how. He's still gonna have to pay his employment.
Well,
As
yeah, I mean,
his state.
that was the thing. Like, his statement sounded like he feels that if he has Bitcoin, then the things he does with his money will be more secret, and that's
Well,
probably what
it used to be, but I have to let him know
well,
that
it's got to be more secret than any large like you're required by law to anytime you spend $10,000 to like have that registered, right? If he
or
spends
if you make money off of Bitcoin. If you make money,
Well,
they want to tax you on it. If the
yeah,
value.
but if he's on the web and he buys something from Moldova for $15,000, or as we like to say, 3/4 of Bitcoin, no one has to know what that was. That kind of thing, you know. He could be buying his own drone or whatever, you know. I don't know what he buy, but you know, I think I don't. I'm not.
Nobody ever will now.
I'm not giving Russell. I'm not going to attribute to Russell Okung nefarious motives. He
I
just
think
wants
it's
to be
cool,
secret.
interesting. I just think it's an interesting thing.
No, it is. That's why I brought it up. I was like, what do
Yeah.
you make of this? And I really thought that maybe we would have people on here that were more football, like Dan Gilbert. You know what I mean?
He'll
and
be
like-
around soon, hopefully.
And I thought maybe he would have more insight than what I do, because the truth is, I've gotten so out of football that it's kind of amazing, considering how much I was into football for so long.
Lenny and I won our combo league, so we did pretty good in football. I can't believe it, but we did. Okay, what's our next topic? Let's see. Our
What
next
do
topic, baseball. We're talking.
The first thing was about this. Like, I was going to ask you this question. This was going to be like my icebreaker, right? Are you back in October when Halloween passed and November hit, and you heard Christmas music? Were you the kind of person that was happy to hear that, or were you saying, "Are you doing this already?"
I'm a little like just annoyed about the whole thing. I kind of get just like, what the hell are you doing? We haven't even hit Thanksgiving yet. I did love in Lowe's. I loved seeing all of the inflatable things for Christmas because they had so many.
I mean, there's some things that are fun and beautiful about Christmas. The question is timing.
But
Rottweiler, how do you feel about the early?
people even remembered what Christmas was all
How do
about.
you feel about the encroaching Christmas tide?
It gives me anxiety.
Does
Yeah,
it?
and I'm going to equate this back. I'm going to equate this back to baseball because 2 days ago, this is why I put this here. I was walking through a Walgreens, and I walked down that aisle where they have the magazines, and I remember going to this old newspaper stand, Boston's in Chicago, and it was a big deal in February when I first saw the baseball almanac come out, or these baseball, the USA Today baseball preview. They used to come out in February, and it was a big deal. And you'd open it up, and you'd study it, and you'd do this thing. Now,
It's the
baseball
baseball
season.
forecaster now.
Well, I mean, the thing is that no matter how bad we think Christmas is encroached on the early part of the year, it's like people are talking baseball in October,
Yeah.
in November, and baseball doesn't start for another 4 months past Christmas.
Oh yeah,
It's like-
I made my first trade a week after the season.
Oh,
You know-
okay? So going into next season, I mean, this is kind of spur of the moment for you. We were going to talk about, we've done some mock drafts. Douglas has done a few on his own. I've been looking at the forecaster and trends and stuff like this. So we were just going to try to talk, be helpful while gathering on New Year's Eve. Be helpful to fantasy people because it now is a new year. Football is over and it's time to get busy learning what's going on. Well, like how deep are the positions, the catching position? We know that the trends have been going this way for several years where they don't, every team is going to have 2 catchers. No catchers. I mean, there's very few catchers are going to get full-time at bats, and you can expect that to happen. I did notice, as bad as the catching pool is, I noticed how the batting average is not, I won't say it's not as bad. For some, it's as bad, but it seems like overall there's a lot more catchers that are hitting maybe 250.
They're hitting league average-ish.
Yeah, like close to league average. They're not going to get.
There are many fewer Zuninos and stuff like that where they would hit 205 with a bunch of home runs.
There's still those, but they're they're going to hit hard. They're going to hit home runs, strike out a ton, and they're going to crush your batting average if they do see a lot of at bats. So one beauty of catchers not getting as many at bats is that they don't crush your batting average.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it once was. Yeah, that's true.
But you wanted to bring up Dalton Varsho, who
when I look at catchers, I often sort of punt catchers because my feeling has always been, where would I draft this guy if he wasn't a catcher but he was an outfielder? You know what I'm saying?
What about are you completely
as much as I like JT Realmuto, and I think he's by far the class of the catching thing, and I think there's a couple other guys that I would want, like Will Smith and Yasmani Grandal. It's like, if I were drafting JT Realmuto as an outfielder, he would be
horrible. Okay, fine.
He'd be 200.
I don't know if he's horrible, but I get your point.
So I have a tendency to go, who are my fallbacks? Who are my fallbacks? Who are my fallbacks? And when I was going through this stuff, I noticed that there are 2 guys with catcher eligibility that are going to get playing time outside of catcher, and they're not exactly household names, and they're people we should bring up.
Well, Alexander Kirk, I didn't see that in his
He projects to be their DH most of the time. So
I think Kanapalefa
is no longer a catcher, though. That's the problem with Kanapalefa.
He qualifies. Doesn't he qualify or not?
No, he didn't catch it all last year. That's
he
the
didn't
problem.
catch it all.
No, he played
really?
21 games at third base, and the crazy thing is he played 15 at shortstop. Kanapalefa is going to be the Rangers starting shortstop this year.
Right. Does he qualify at catcher? You said he didn't play at all at catcher. That's
probably, if they played 162 games, he would have probably played a few games.
So this is the guy though that you're talking about. Then, if you have to hire this guy as a shortstop, you do not hire this guy if he only qualifies here.
Well, no, I just thought it's interesting, but I also thought that
third base he plays too. Third base
does not qualify. Look at that. So thank you, everybody.
No catcher, right?
I have to shift my plan now. Yeah.
But you do have. That's what we were telling you these names. We're saying Alexander Kirk, but the other guy is you have Dalton Varsho. Dalton Varsho for the Arizona Diamondbacks has the position eligibility of catcher and center field. He's probably going to start at center field.
I picked him as the rookie of the year with our series. We had to make picks last year. Rookie of the year, Dalton Varsho. I love the fact that he was a catcher. He can actually steal bases, hit home runs. But I'm a little concerned about Varsho. I mean, he does qualify at catcher going into the season, and he's probably not going to play catcher. Don't they have? Is he in Toronto?
He's in Arizona. They have a guy Carson Kelly. Toronto has Jansen and Kirk.
Okay, Jansen and Kirk, and Reese McGuire too, right?
Reese McGuire sort of played himself out last year.
He had an incident. He had an incident.
Well, I'm just saying he wasn't a big part of their thing last year. He started with the season, and then he didn't finish the year with the Blue Jays. I think he went to the back.
Wasn't he on the? I don't know where he came from. Anyway,
I thought McGuire was a halfway decent prospect too, but then Kirk came up and Kirk hit 325, and that's a rare thing out of a catcher. Enough that he was stealing time he played a couple games at first base and got a lot of games at DH. So that Jansen and Kirk could play simultaneously. Don't get me wrong. The Blue Jays might do something with an acquisition which would push him out of it. But right this minute, you're looking at a guy that'll probably catch a game or two a week, be the relief for Jansen, and then play DH for 3 games a week.
If
And
he
that's
hits
more.
well, but you can't. I do not trust him yet. Alejandro Kirk in Toronto. I do not trust his hitting yet because
Why?
he hasn't had very much experience at all. And
He's got more experience than Varsho, and Varsho's is bad at the pro level. Varsho had like 119 last year, didn't he?
he
He
was
had like
not.
low 100s.
That's very true, dude. But look at Varsho compared to Kirk as far as in the minor. Yes, he did horrible in his first little stint in the major leagues, but overall he makes good contact. He takes walks. He's got like better plate discipline all around than Alejandro Kirk, who I feel like did a lot better in the majors than he will do. I just think he's obviously outplayed himself. He hit 375 at the major league level. I just don't see that.
Oh yeah, I don't think either. But if you could get a catcher that hits 290, that's actually a boon.
Where did he play last year? He only qualifies at catcher? That's a problem for me.
So there's very few people that qualify at more than catcher.
If I'm going to bank on a guy, because he's also got depth problems with Danny Jansen there, and also, we
we don't have a lot to look at because Kirk's only 22, but his K rates in the minors were pretty reasonable. He in 2019 his K rate was 11%. Even last year, his K rate with the 9 games, 25 at bats he had with Blue Jays, his K rate was only 16%, which is a big jump from where it was. But that's
good though.
That's good by MLB standards.
He never even touched foot in AA or AAA.
We're going to see a lot more of that because there's nothing to touch last year, and that's what they sort of had to. They had to make a choice with a prospect, and teams are making that choices left and right nowadays. Do we?
I understand
watch them not play or bring them up?
I understand that. I do understand that they had to be a little bit more like they choose differently last year because they only had so many people that were able to even have a minor league season, and that they obviously, they took their best players. The fact that he came to the majors last year and he did so good, I wonder what that's going to do for his fantasy value. Although, where can you say that he's going in NFBC?
I got NFBC over here. We all have our computers up.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking.
I don't know. I'm thinking about just other catchers right now. Sorry.
Right now, Alexander Kirk is going 320. His average ADP is 327.7, right behind Pedro Severino and ahead of Tom Murphy. And I mean, he's behind Joey Bart. He's behind Carson Kelly. He's behind Yadi Molina, who I think is a little low because we don't know where he's playing. He's behind Jorge Alfaro, who I'd take over him. I would take Kirk over.
What do you guys think of Austin Nola this year?
I love him. Yes. Why? Well, I think that they have a catcher and that just didn't work out for them very good. He was supposed to be Mejia. I think he was supposed to be good.
Yeah, they traded Mejia away.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did. They acquired Caratini to catch Yu Darvish.
Does Austin Nola qualify at other positions? I think he might.
I think he might just be catcher this year.
Let's check it out.
He caught mostly for Seattle. I don't know what he did on the other
Whatever,
side.
dude. I remember picking him up last year in the league. I was so happy that I did it.
I was talking about him before the season. I said this is the sleeper catcher. When I say to this year, Alexander Kirk is a sleeper catcher.
Not like Austin Nola.
He's my 2020 Austin Nola.
Because look, Austin Nola has been in the majors for a couple years now. Okay, even though he hasn't really had full time. He played 48 games in 2020. That was after he played 79 games the year before.
It actually looked like going into last year that he wasn't going to play catcher, but Tom Murphy got injured and he was sort of forced into the role, and it turned out he was pretty good at it.
Yes.
Enough that San Diego traded for him and maintained him as a catcher, as opposed to what I thought they might have done is made him the utility player that Seattle originally picked him up as. Brought him up as.
He's not going to qualify at he's going to qualify at catcher, which we love, but he only played twice at first base, once at third, and 4 times at DH. But we know for sure that he can play other positions and has played other positions. He's played in the minor leagues in 2016. He played second, third, and shortstop.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at the San Diego lineup, are you going to put him in? Are you going to put him at shortstop over?
No. I'm just saying for fantasy purposes, like you're not.
I don't think he's going to get that stuff on that team.
if something happened, he can move around if he needs to. That's all I'm saying. They need him at catcher, obviously, right?
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
their starter.
the Padres are, strangely enough, a team that has too much talent for him to be a part of it.
What about the Padres, dude? They're in the division against your Giants. I wonder what you think of the Padres and what they're doing. I mean, it's exciting for a Padres guy, but probably not for a Giants fan.
Man. It's time for Malpal to have something to celebrate because they're killing it. They got the best rotation, but hey, what happened to Clevenger last year? When teams are trading guys like this, they may be foreseeing a problem, right? And so you have Darvish dropping at age 35, I think, 34, 35, a lot of miles on his arm. You have Blake Snell pitching deeper into games after all these years and all those strikeouts.
Yes,
and all of a sudden now you're going to stagger Clever back. You're going to stagger everybody coming back from Tommy John. And what do you have? You have Nelson Lamet, which is amazing. And you have Chris Pat. You know, we'll see if they can stay healthy.
I do wonder. I wonder about how much confidence do they have in Paddock and Dinelson Lamet being healthy and doing well, because they did invest in 2 veteran pitchers, and like it makes me feel like maybe it's not a given that Lamet or Paddock.
I really think that there's this window thing, and I thought it was there last year. It seems to me that the wealthy teams, you know, you're a Red Sox fan, they're a fairly wealthy team. Yankees are very wealthy. The Cubs are very wealthy. The Dodgers are very wealthy, are more concerned with preserving payroll, Dodgers a little less than others, than they are with winning games. And it's a situation where right now nobody is signing anybody. And so some team that has been sort of in the background, not able to win for a long time, should seize this opportunity. And I'm impressed with Preller being that guy. He's like, look, nobody wants to win it, we'll take it. You know, nobody's signing anybody.
Dude,
Nobody's made – it's like if you name like the 4 best moves of the offseason, they're all the Padres.
Right, so far that's true, but I don't know.
Nobody wants to do anything. You know,
Bauer's looking. So John Heyman says today, maybe not today. I read it in a highlight or a headline somewhere. It said that Bauer's looking to get 30 to 40 million for a 1-year deal, and I know for sure that's his ultimate. Like that's what he wants to do. But his friend Rachel Luba has been, letting everybody know that she's willing to talk to him about more than 1 year. And I think if it was up to Bauer, and I hope it is, but think about it. John Heyman and Bauer are not friendly. Bauer is so annoyed at John Heyman because he got on his case the other day on Twitter saying, like, you don't know what the Cincinnati Reds can afford, because he said that the Reds can't afford Bauer. And so, him and Bauer are going back and forth. So, like, seriously, every time I see John Heyman saying something about Bauer, I'm like, why should I believe you? Because
the Reds are acting like they can't afford him. That's for sure.
They probably can't, but that's really, like, I don't know why. It's really not John Heyman that knows that I don't know. There's a tension between the players and the media. There always has, especially with Bauer. He has a chip on his shoulder, I think. Anyways, a team like the Padres would be perfect for Bauer for 1 season, because most of the money that they're paying out is for younger people, and they're not getting paid that much. And the contracts don't really kick in that heavily maybe this year. I don't know for sure. I haven't looked into it, but with all the youth that they have on their team, are they even able to afford
the Angels?
The Angels. Why? They need a starting pitcher in LA. But what makes you think that they're about ready to spend that kind of money on 1 season? Because a team that wants to pay that is going to be ready to win now.
Yeah, they already got Trout on their payroll, so they're going to have to back it up at some point. That's what San Diego's doing.
What do you think the odds of the Angels with Bauer of winning the World Series? Still 100 to 1 or so. Right?
Well, I think Bauer just wants to get paid, though.
They got Rendon. They have Rendon. They still have.
Yeah, I'm not talking from Bauer's perspective. Bauer's will take the money wherever it goes, but in order to make a 1-year contract worthwhile, you have to be a World Series contender.
He did go to UCLA. Okay, he graduated from UCLA, so
it would make the Dodgers make more sense.
Either one, I think
they get the money and they're a contender.
I'm excited for it, but it really does narrow it down to just a few.
Yeah,
teams that
it's really
could
about
have
4 or
rushed
5
away.
teams.
And Blake Snell, I don't
where
know.
does his value go up? He's with the AL team or NL team? What do you guys think?
NL.
Where would up his value even further? NL?
The truth is he's effective in a big hitter's park. His value is pretty decent no matter where he goes.
All the Cincinnati Reds.
Outside of maybe Colorado.
So one question about Bauer. As much as I like him and think that he's got the best stuff as far as a pitcher goes, like I think he's got the best working work ethic. I think he's got the I don't know. I just feel like his mind is really always focusing on, how to get better. That he wants to pitch every 4 days. I think they should let him. I do. He's completely worked his body up to doing that, and he doesn't get injured very often because he has his own thing that he goes through, his own setup, that works for him. Anyways, his spin rate, he said in interviews over the last couple of years that this is when talking about the Houston Astros using substances on their hands. Like, he talked about the fact that your spin rate doesn't just go up like that. You go from Garrett Cole went from Pittsburgh to Houston, and all of a sudden his spin rate was much faster. So he says, I've been trying to figure out how to up my spin rate for all these years, and the only way to do it is with a substance. Okay, but his spin rate went up a ton last year. It went up crazy amounts. A normal, logical, reasonable person would have to question when it came out of his own mouth that the only way to up your spin rate is to use substances, and he knows this. So can we just assume that he is using a substance?
I mean, maybe he figured. I mean, there was that thing about them allowing to have like a rag for their hand instead of touching their lips. So maybe he figured out something he could use that would be
There's
helpful.
all kinds of
Yet
new
still
things.
not be illegal.
There's new substances that aren't looking like that black tar.
If you ever like spill Coca-Cola, and it gets on the ground and it's all sticky. Like maybe if he doused his rag in Coca-Cola instead of water, maybe that was enough to up the spin rate, and no one's checking for Coca-Cola. Yeah. And it's just
kind of like Rudy Giuliani's forehead.
Nobody is going to come out and call you out on it. Trevor Bauer maybe figured out that the only person that can call you out on using substances is the manager of the other team, and the manager of the other team knows that his pitchers are probably using it too.
Well,
that was very rare.
That was the thinking about the Houston Astros. When I was listening to the podcast, they were saying it's like everybody is sort of doing something similar, and so nobody ever wanted to call anyone out because of mutually assured destruction.
Why not? Everybody else is using it. Why shouldn't he use it? Right?
I mean, if they're not going to police it, maybe the first time the guy who's doing it is wrong, but the 100th time, it's like you're basically saying it's okay. If I'm driving on a stretch of road to my house at 100 miles an hour in front of a cop, the first time he lets me go, hey, he's kind of giving me a break. But if I can always drive 100 miles on that, then the functional speed limit's 100 miles an hour.
How much faith do you have in Bauer repeating what he did in the 60-game season?
Doesn't he seem to have a little bit of an up and down through his career? Like 1 year good, 1 year a little bit off, 1 year good, 1 year.
He had half a season in 2019 that was excellent, or maybe it was 2018, and it was excellent, but it was half a season. And then he had a horrible season in 2019, and he never had an ERA below 4. I'll tell you that much. Okay, so
he goes from being like a first round pick to being a 5th round pick. They're still both good players. That's what I'm saying about a little bit of an alternation. But I could be wrong. That's just my gut feel about the guy.
So he went from like a 6th or 7th round pick to maybe a 5th round pick. I can't remember, but it was totally reasonable. Now he's going to be getting drafted in the top 10 pitchers off the board, and I question, as much as I like him, I question his I don't think it's based on him where he goes. I just think that
the truth is, in 2019 he had a 4.48 ERA, 4.20 in 2017, 4.29 in 2016.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, just underneath that sort of quality start level. He's
But
always done.
he is using substances now because everybody else is doing it and nobody's calling it out. So think of the difference in the amount of pay that he's about to receive because of the substance.
Yeah,
Because
why wouldn't you do it once to get paid?
well, integrity. That's
Well,
integrity.
sorry, I mean in baseball, who's got that?
Well, Starling Marte did it, and he got a huge payday.
Yeah, Robinson Cano.
Everybody, well, that's not even the same thing to me. I think first of all, steroids should be legal, and they should be able to use any kind of. MLB is like considering making their own substance to put for pitchers that where the pitchers can use substance now, but as long as it's the MLB's, they got to make up the money that they're
And they
going to
would
lose.
sell it on the black market.
I want to quick jump back to the chat room for two things. One is Mel Pell chimed in and said that Bauer pitched against Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and the Cubs last year. 3 of the worst offensive teams in baseball. That might have propped up his stats.
That
And
means
before we forget, Mel Pell also asked for the San Francisco Giant fan what's his feeling about Joey Bart and Buster Posey.
yeah, that's a good one.
Hey,
Bart or Posey
I
coming
would
back.
say-
He took the year off. He had twins, right?
Mel Pell said Bart. I am adding Posey to the mix because it's part of the same answer.
It's not an
Yeah.
or question, is
I think
it?
they're going to have Bart up there. I think Posey's going to be back. He's going to be the catcher, depending on how Brandon Belt does at first base. They're going to
What do
want to
you mean?
spell Posey there to keep him fresh.
Well, I mean, honestly, if
But
you're talking about a
Bart
catcher
didn't
who
look
might
that great
get
last
him
year.
off of catcher, Posey might play some first. Belt can play the
Yeah,
outfield.
Bart did that season last year when he was called up. So
So you think that Bart is going to? Let me look at Bart real quick. Let me find Bart. Is he going to be like Posey's going to be the main catcher? You're saying, and then Joey Bart will get to relieve Posey, and Posey will go play first base. Is that what you say?
They've done that in the past.
yeah, Bart
They'll
might.
move-
If we have minor league play, Bart might. He might start in the
Bart might
minor
be-
leagues this year.
I saw him
they're-
in Arizona Fall League, Joey Bart. I saw him. I don't know. I don't really know. He hasn't been to AAA. He did come up to the majors last year. He had 103 at bats, and he didn't hit any home runs, but he did hit 12. He hit 12 home runs. He played at 3 levels in 2019. 3 levels, but he wasn't ready to come up in 2020, and the only reason that he did is because of the situation with the COVID. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's true. So the fact that he hit 230 it can't be held against him really, and you kind of have to take a mix of what he did in the minors and try to figure out what he could do going forward. I will look at his contact rate. I don't know
if we avoided everybody that hit 230 or lower last year, we'd be avoiding a lot of players.
I agree with you. His contact rate in the minor
Look
leagues
at
is
that.
like good,
MVP.
like Posey. I do think he's going to come up, but he's going to be a risky late round pick if you do.
Yeah, I mean, there's other catchers I like more.
He's
and
not
I
going to
think
be on a contenders team.
where his talent. I mean, he might be the kind of guy that comes up late in the year and is a bit of a spark for 2-3 weeks, but that's about that's like the high water mark for him in my mind.
But why? Because his contact rate in the minor leagues was pretty good.
It's
I
just
mean,
because it happens once in a while. I think the biggest problem with him is playing time, and Posey's in the way. And so, all right, Posey gets injured or something, he comes up, or maybe they have an injury somewhere else at first base or outfield, and they move Belt around. But it's a matter of if he comes up and hits well, he could have a good month. But I don't think you'd be drafting much more than a good month. Is all I'm trying to say.
is this Buster Posey's last year in his contract? Is it? This is going to be it, or what? I wonder
I
what
doubt it.
Buster Posey's
I'll look up
contract.
Buster Posey's contract.
Okay, let's do that. I don't know. I'm like just gonna. Last year I drafted dude in Roberto. I drafted Roberto,
Perez.
the one in Cleveland, because he's a great defensive catcher, and I figured he's gonna see time at the plate because he is the best catcher in baseball by far. Defensively, he didn't do jack shit for me. I also invested in Mitch Garver a lot, and he was horrible. I definitely am still going to give Mitch Garver another chance, and I'm also going to give Sean Murphy another chance. I like both of those catchers again this year, even though
Mitch Garver doesn't. I mean, there's some question whether he'll be the primary catcher for Minnesota. Another guy that falls in that same category who kind of went away is the guy that went off Nola last year. Tom Murphy was a little bit of a darling last year who didn't play at all because of an injury, and now it doesn't look like he's going to start in Seattle. But there are some of those guys on the line.
is he still in Seattle? I don't know if he is still.
He's going to be their backup catcher. They somehow
Posey has 2 more years on his contract.
I'm looking at this going no. There's a club option for 2022, so this is it this year. The club could say you're gone.
What?
The club could
Yeah, because
choose
he'll
to
be
let it go.
$35, $21 million and $22 million.
Yeah, he has an option for $22 million for 2022.
He's good. I mean, you gotta. I don't know. You gotta like Buster Posey. He's just all around just good.
I mean, I think if you're the Giants management,
He'll be like a Salvador Perez this year, I think. He'll have a good year this year.
you might feel like $22 million is worth it because he's sort of a legacy for the team. But if you know for a fact there's no way in hell you're going to re-sign him in 2023 unless he gives you some kind of massive hometown discount,
He's 35,
not
dude.
out next
He's
year.
35. He's not. He's gonna be done after this.
He said he wants to retire with the Giants, so he'll probably give him a discount. They paid him for his World Series years.
Do you think he would, with his option, like if they say we decline your option, he'd come back and play for $10 million?
I do.
No.
Insulting.
I don't think he wants to play anywhere else. And Yadier Molina right now, I don't see him leaving the St. Louis either, even though
I'm not one that speculates much on these free agents, but I just think he's a perfect fit for the New York Yankees. I think
Who?
that's Yadier Molina.
Oh, come on. He is no. I can't believe they haven't re-signed him. It's unbelievable to me because the Cardinals, I don't know what's going on in the Central Division of the National League, okay? Because it is ridiculous. None of these teams are competing teams. And
No, the truth is, I mean, what team out there is really signing players except for the Padres, and I think the Braves signed a player or two. They signed, right? I mean, like
Okay.
it's
First
like
of all, the teams that need to sign players, like that aren't doing it, the Cardinals, they're supposed to be like they have great fans. They've always been able to put a team on the field that competes, okay, at least. You never ever, and same with San Francisco, like you never count them out of making the playoffs, the Giants or the Cardinals. But it just seems like
I
the
was
Cardinals
disappointed when San Francisco didn't get David Dahl.
David Dahl.
they didn't get David
He was
Dahl.
the first outfielder to look out for Florida, and
Well,
Giants should have went after him. They needed his bat.
what about the big rumor from last year? Are they going to bring? Are they going to go after? We got Sale Puig again. I think that's the guy that fits in San Francisco. But
Puig needs to go to Miami.
nobody. I mean, like right now, the Yankees should be signing players. They're not. The Red Sox should be signing players. They're not. The Cubs should be signing players. They're not. The Dodgers should be signing players. They're not. Well, their teams are good. Houston Astros are a pretty good team. They're not signing players. The only team.
Astros suck.
And did they
The
make
only
it definite that the DH won't be in the NL?
I am going to be drafting like it's not going to be a thing next year because I believe that they're using it for leverage when it's stupid because both sides want it. So who's using it for leverage? Like,
Well, you have this thing about I'm a little worried about the conversations between the baseball players and the managers this year because last year when COVID hit and they sat down and talked, the original conversation between the two, this disease scared everyone so much that they actually, back in March, they actually talked to each other reasonably, which never has happened in my lifetime, right? You know, it's like, oh, the club, you know, like the players said, we want to protect our health and we want to make sure that we don't lose service time. Go do whatever the hell you want. You want 7-inning games? As crazy that is, just go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? Like that's literally how it came down. But
in 2020, it was like that, but now it's back.
The problem right now is two things. One is there's a difference between rich and being rich, right? And right now we see a lot of players from baseball who are actually choosing to go play for like the KBO or the Japanese league because they know they're going to get a full season wages.
Because they're not good. Like Eric Thames went back to Korea. I'm sorry, Eric Thames is not great.
No. I was looking at there's a number of mid-level relievers, you know, that would
look at all the relievers on the free agency, right? Like,
Well,
look how much-
I'm just saying they're making that choice because they know they're going to get paid for a full season. They're here. We don't know what they're going to get yet. But
I do think that players would sign for less, especially like older veteran players. Like, I mean, you know,
the point I'm trying to get to is that in that agreement last year, the thing with the players said they wanted was they wanted their health protected, and throughout the course of the year, I heard players talk about things like Anthony Rizzo, Mookie Betts are two guys that said this. Like they thought that if there was a COVID breakout, that there would be some other methods to shut down the league, shut down portions of the league and stuff, and that really never happened. And so I don't think the players are going to go into this trusting them as much as they did last year about the health issues.
it's hard for me to even imagine that their health insurance just goes away if they're not playing.
It's not health insurance. No, it's about maintaining their own physical health.
Well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean?
It's like there was a report. I don't know. I follow college football a lot more than, but there's a report that like 30% of the Ohio State athletes have some kind of heart damage from COVID. You know, I mean, I don't know how true it is, but it's a report.
But what kind of protection do they want for that?
Well, I mean, the question is this: it's like if there is a disease going around, maybe they shouldn't have been playing. Is really what it is, and so now you have a situation where the players are saying maybe we shouldn't be playing health wise, and the owners are saying maybe we shouldn't be playing finance wise. That makes me nervous about the start of the year.
But what are the players saying? Like, I want to make sure that I have my health. Like, I want to make sure that that's
this year. The big thing, the easy thing this year is that we don't start till everyone's vaccinated. Right. That's the easy thing, right?
Yeah, but everybody doesn't want to get vaccinated, and everybody doesn't feel like it's worth it to get vaccinated, and that's going
to. I mean, you may or may not want to get vaccinated, but if it was for you, you know, get vaccinated and you can have your job and make $8 million this year, or you don't get vaccinated, you don't get paid. What do you do?
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's horrible, dude. That's very scary. We should not be forcing people to get vaccinated. If you want to get the vaccine because you feel that you're protected then why would you force another person to get it? If they get sick, it doesn't harm you because you can't get it. Right? Isn't that how it works? Like if you get the vaccine, you're not going to get it, even if the guy next to you has it, right? Isn't that?
Or are you going to get it? The nurse got it still.
Yeah, no, it's 95% effective. If you do 1 million things, you're going to find 150.
What if you just don't feel that the risk is high enough to take the vaccine? Like maybe you just don't really need it. You feel that you need it. Like because your category of people, which is, you know, say that you're healthy, you don't have coexisting conditions, and you're in relatively young, under 55, you don't feel like you're going to, the chances of you dying from COVID are not going to convince you that it's better off to get the vaccine. Some people feel that way.
I'm not getting the vaccine.
I don't want it either. I don't want to be told.
I'm going to get the vaccine in time. The vaccine finally, we got a notification that because I take care of my mother who's 77, and the truth is they sold out of spots before I could get one.
I feel like for Lenny, because he's older, he's definitely high risk of the COVID, and I've considered it for his sake, but he doesn't want to take it either.
Yeah,
they're gonna, if they start making you take vaccines, dude. This is a problem, dude.
Well, they actually there is a problem. It's like throughout this whole COVID thing, there is this balance between freedom and safety, and you know there is the question. And the truth is, not everyone has to take the vaccine, but we have to have about 70% of America do it.
I wonder how many people already have antibodies to this thing too.
I have antibodies. I know that from the last test I got in August. What?
Do you think that? Well, we don't know how long they last either, dude. Like we know nothing.
As of August, I could say I have antibodies.
You know, okay.
We don't know anything.
No.
we know very little. It's true. You know?
That's the thing. So anyway, the long-term effects are scary, of course, but
that's the thing. It's like I don't think that. I don't think I don't think it's radical for me to say that when they get down to talk about this year and making changes to the way this year runs, that they're not going to be as agreeable as they were last year.
Canada is saying that if you want to fly into their country, you have to test negative for COVID. So,
But that's okay. Testing is fine, but putting something in your body, I support anybody that wants to get the vaccine, right? If they really feel, I want the equal support that I can make that choice on what I think is going to be safe for me, because I want to be safe for others as well, and not be forced to. Like in education, me personally, if for somehow they came out with a mandate, which is highly doubtful, is especially within a year or two before they actually see the outcomes in different places, like the military, like other places. If they try to state you got to get a vaccine, well, I'm setting myself up with other things so that I could get out of education. And I really hope they don't lead it there. But like in California, educators are going to be in the first wave of those individuals that are able to get vaccinated.
But don't they already have like a rule that you have to have like a measles shot to be a teacher or a student in California schools?
There's those rules, but those are embedded already.
Those are equally
like
as infringing in your freedom.
That have just been warp speed made.
They're equally as infringing on your freedom. Why do we choose to fight for our freedom on COVID but not on measles?
Well, because I think there's a proven track record in history of that as far as safety goes. And that may be the case, but again, that's after there's a track record and not just off the back of some experimental drugs that they're just whipping up in different factories and sending out.
I don't mean to change the topic really all of a sudden, but we are sitting at 4 minutes to midnight. So we should recognize midnight.
Wow.
We should take
some point. And the other thing is that traditionally we've done this a number of years. Right after we say Happy New Year,
Elizabeth?
We take about a 10-minute break and come back.
Say hi, Elizabeth.
Who's here?
Hi, lady.
So
hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's very festive this year, right? I don't know. I think a lot of people are home, but we're always home. We were talking about that earlier. We're just old people now. Go ahead. I cut you off. I'm sorry. I was saying hi to.
I spent, I do that thing with we set up trivia time, and my friend the professor, we set up a trivia program for him at this bar. When I sold it to this bar, it's like, last time I was here was like New Year's Eve, the year I got divorced the first time, and that was the last time I was ever in like a 20-man bar fight.
There was a bar fight.
They cleaned up that strip a lot in the last 20 years. And that strip used to be like strip club, High Life Fronton, massage parlor, redneck bar, like just this whole strip. Oh, dog tracks. Now the dog track's still there, the High Life Fronton's still there, but the other places are all trying to be nicer. So, and they got rid of the true porn spots. All the true porn spots are gone.
What's a never mind.
Like all the strip clubs are gone. All the massage parlors are gone.
What do we watch? What's going on? Is the New Year's ball dropping in the city tonight? I mean, it is, right?
I'm watching the little thing in the corner of my computer that says 11:58 because that's exciting. Tick, 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 Microsoft.
One of the most beautiful things that they do for New Year's, that even if you don't go to the city and watch in Manhattan, you could see it on the local news or whatever we do. The fireworks are amazing. That they do the fireworks right in front of the city. So it's
That's when I got up earlier. That's why I got up. I thought my dog wanted to go out, but the truth is he was just scared of the fireworks.
Right now?
No, that was. Remember, I got up for about 5 minutes at one point while our conversation. It was like I was going to let him out, but the truth is he was just cowering. He's okay right
New Year's Eve. Can I turn this on and share my screen? I bet.
I got 11:58:48.
Hold on. Share screen. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm going to share the screen. So I want to do a Chrome tab. Yes, look at it. You can see it.
Well, that's cool because, like I said, after we ring in the year, we should take like a 10-minute break, but just leave that on in the background.
Okay, I'll turn off the sound effects.
I need to make one call to say, well, two
calls.
Go.
I'll talk to Nick while you're gone.
Well, no, we're gonna ring in Happy together, but
and then we're gonna take a break.
Take a 10-minute break at like 12:03, and just leave that on in the background, and we'll come back.
Okay.
At 12:15. Because you probably got to say hi to your family too and stuff, right?
I already told my mom she's on the West Coast. I told her I was going to call her at 10 o'clock her time.
I got to make 2 quick phone calls, or actually, I got to make a text.
Nick has 3 more hours till it's right? It's 3 more hours for you.
Trismas Horas.
46, 47, 48. We're at 10 seconds according to Microsoft. 9,
I love
8,
it.
7,
8, 7, 6,
5,
5,
4, 3,
4,
2,
3, 2,
1.
1.
Happy New Year, Friday, January
New
20th,
Year.
2021.
You guys
There's a-
don't
Woo,
take
I
What?
I can't wait to get there. We'll have to have 3 more hours in 2020.
I always get here first. Me and Douglas are here first. Christmas we get earlier than you. Like
There was a story like the people that get, I'm in that league with UK guys, and UK celebrated this 4 or 5 hours ago. There's a town where they have like a big clock in the middle of the town, and they set the middle clock down 3 minutes fast because they found that if they didn't do that, people wouldn't get to the trains on time, and so they'd always move it back for New Year's Eve. This year, they decided they were going to be the first people to celebrate New Year's, and they celebrated it 3 minutes early versus everybody else in England.
look, it's over. It's over. Or what?
That's
Well, no,
great.
they're singing the
Yeah,
songs.
did
and
you
they're
see
gonna-
The fireworks. It can't be over. That's just odd to me because I hear fireworks outside of my window right now.
Yeah, they
But-
said they were limiting fireworks shows. One country did drones, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, some of those drone shows are pretty crazy. I mean,
I
in a good way.
That's great. What are they? So
They
I've
form
never-
things in the air, the Santa Claus, a Christmas tree, a big star.
okay, well that's pretty cool. I mean, it's got to be
Make
better
them more environmentally friendly.
for sure. It's got to be better for the environment. I would say that it's got to be better.
So,
Oh,
Happy New Year, everybody. I'll be
Okay,
back,
Happy
I'll
New
be
Year.
back here. I'll
Happy
be
New
back
Year,
here before
Doug.
12:15. I'll be back here before 12:15.
I'll
I
see you then.
promise.
okay, we'll see you then.
Let me mute myself.
Yeah. I wish I could see some more fireworks. What the hell? They just ripped us off of the fireworks this year, dude. Because usually they start like at midnight or like 5 minutes before, and they go for like a half hour, dude. It's no joke. It's no joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, ads. I'm not even signed in. If I sign in, then we get all kinds of good shit with no ads. That's what we're doing. We're signing in. But I don't see anything. So, I didn't think they were having anything down in the city, but it looks like some people are there at New
Well,
York
that's
Times.
that. Those are celebrities.
Oh, only the celebrities get to go there, right?
Yeah. That was Machine Gun Kelly.
Okay.
In the pink.
Well, that sucks, really. That sucks. So I wonder if it's just people that already had their hotel rooms because it's $1 billion to get a hotel room there.
Probably.
So-
And they're all going to get the new COVID.
The new COVID is supposedly less dangerous, dude, but more, it's more contagious.
It's all
More
crazy.
More contagious and less. I don't care. Something's wrong with the COVID. Okay, something's wrong because why we just have way too many cases, and it's like not even possible that we have 5 times more cases than any country in the world, dude. It's just not. Plus, they've combined the flu, pneumonia, and COVID all together into one medical problem. Now there's no flus. Nobody has a flu this year. Imagine that.
It's all crazy. See, and Andrea, I thought that once we left 2021, everything is just supposed to change.
It's supposed to go back to the way it was last year at this time. We had no idea what was coming, right? We had no clue what was coming, dude.
We were at where were we?
I forget what it's called.
We were with Howard and Deborah at the club that she owned in San Francisco before it closed down.
Okay, how fun.
We were there, and I remember jumping on here for like an hour before we left.
Yes,
So
that's
go
true.
figure.
That was
Who
last
could have
year.
predicted? Yeah, who
We had
could have
no
predicted
idea.
what lied ahead?
We had no clue what was coming, dude. I mean, maybe. Happy New Year, Stephen Culp, Thomas Whitney, Jeff Bogus. Hello, dude. Nice to see you. Happy New Year to you. Just saying hi to the people leaving messages at Facebook. I see a lot of Planet Fitness people going. They must have.
nice.
The gyms are open all night. I don't even know if I don't think Planet Fitness is open, dude, in the city. What about you? Do you get the gyms open where you're at?
No, everything's shut down. Shut down.
Oh.
California is not doing bueno right now.
I think it's just a travesty, dude, what's happening. It's horrible. To the normal middle class people, the hardworking restaurant
Like zero
business-
ICU beds.
Zero. Okay.
Oh man, the iconic Cliff House in San Francisco. It has lasted, I think, like over 120 years, and they just took down the signs today, and they had to close down after 120 years.
It's unfathomable. Like, I know that people spent lots of money making sure that they could make it suitable to serve food outside for their people, you know, and then all of a sudden now they're not allowed to serve food outside because of the COVID. My friend in San Diego said he has to wear a mask walking the dog now. They're going to fine you if you don't wear a mask walking your dog. That's just, I'm sorry, not to get political.
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
that's how it is in San Mateo.
are they that sure that the mask
Yeah,
works?
yeah,
Where's
you-
the study
you got
on
it.
this? I don't know if it
You
works.
gotta do something. You gotta do something, and if it doesn't work, well, hey, at least you tried.
Yeah, that's
I
not
figure
the-
I've seen so many people. Did you hear about the people that were given the same, instead of being given the Moderna vaccine, they were given the same test drug that was provided to Trump when he was at the hospital, and that's supposed to be provided intravenously, and they gave it to everybody just in a shot in the arm. And so for something that was, and this was in West Virginia, so something that was not approved other than for experimental usage was put into 42 different people. So if that's not a big
Did they
loss,
die?
I don't know what is. I mean, I don't. Well, they don't know. They're saying that there doesn't appear to be any type of. I mean, this just happened. So we have vials being not stored at room temperature, being removed from refrigerators to sabotage them for not being able to be used.
You have to be evil to do that, dude. That's crazy talk. The fact that they brought, not that they left it out overnight on accident, dude. They literally pulled it out of the fridge because they wanted to make the vaccine go spoiled. It's unimaginable, dude.
It's
What
not
is
right.
that?
I know a lot of nurses that's already gotten the vaccine.
Somebody got the vaccine like a week ago and then got COVID. They have COVID now.
Yeah, you're gonna have out, but hopefully an outlier. But I know a lot of nurses that got them, and they're working on the front lines. So I mean, if you're there with patients that are sick, I would say that might be a bigger reward than a risk.
Of course.
I would just simply say, I'm out of education. Thank you.
But people that have to work on the front line, if it makes them feel smart, if it makes them feel better, which a lot of it is the mental, comfort level, it's great for them. That's great for them, but it's not great for me.
Like, are you familiar with CRISPR and how that works with gene editing?
I can't say that I really am. No, not enough to chat about it.
When you learn a little bit more about it, it's interesting because what a vaccine does is essentially gets added into your DNA in the form of, and so once that it tricks your body into attaching it, it's able to identify that strand when it comes in and is able to kill it and not let it invade your body. Well, what we're seeing is it mutating now, and the hope is that it will still continue to fight that mutation because there's different letters in the mutation now. And hopefully it isn't changed enough that now the vaccines won't even be able to fight this new one.
But the thing about the mutation is that the virus doesn't want to kill the host. That's not the goal of the virus. The virus actually wants to live. So the mutation tends to be less deadly. Maybe the vaccine doesn't work against the new mutation or whatever, but the chances are good that it's way less deadly to the host. The virus wants to live. Like, that's not the best outcome is to kill the host, So they're mutating just not to kill the host. Right? I mean,
But the body's immune system isn't built to fight it, though. So that's why you have those outcomes. I mean, and like we talked about earlier, right? If you're a healthy individual and you have a healthy immune system, you will be able to fight it, especially if you introduce a vaccine. So you introduce that to your DNA strand to be able to target that virus before it takes host and multiplies. But for individuals that don't have good immune systems, you really have to fight it. It's scary. In 2021, I'm looking forward to it, but boy.
You got to get some vitamin D. The vitamin D is selling out everywhere. Lenny was on the phone with Walgreens the other day, and they're like, we can't even get it because now vitamin D has an effect on COVID. It will help you from getting it, and it will keep you healthier. Like, the chances of having to go to the hospital are better. Yes, but 10,000, dude, you can only take that like short term that much. 10,000.
Well, so you take it once every 3 days.
Okay.
But if you get COVID again, there's research that needs to be done on doctors that utilize more
natural
homeopathic treatments.
Yeah.
And so with that, there is different combinations of zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D that you're able to take if you are getting sick. And so you overload your body with what they say is within that safe amount because your body's going to need that to boost your immune system to the point to fight it off. And that will really help you go get better.
For sure.
Potentially.
I agree with you, but people are starting to realize that vitamin D is harmless. Everybody should be taking it anyway, really, if you think about it. It will keep you healthy. Especially if you're a woman, you need lots of vitamin D. I don't know if you guys can hear my background noise. Can you hear I think Lenny's up now and everything. Happy New Year, Leonard.
Nice. Happy New Year, Lenny.
He can't hear you because you're on my headphones. Oh, my wrong.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'll tell him hi for you. Lots of fireworks here, for sure. Happy New Year.
I heard a bang outside.
Okay, now, this is serious. We get to put 2020 behind us now. It's a big deal for a lot. We have to do better this year. We have to do better, right? We have to do better. I'm done sharing my screen. Where's Douglas? He doesn't come back? Look it, this is what I'm doing. What you having? You want to hang up and have dinner?
Yeah, we're gonna have some dinner shortly here. Have some chicken soup.
I'm gonna put everybody on hold. I'm going on a break for a minute.
Cool. All right, great. Happy New Year.
So nice to see you. Thanks for spending New Year's, and you guys have a great.
I miss your face. Happy New Year.
Look at me. I'm better. You see, for the most part, my face is back to normal, and I had to love these two when I had Bell's palsy at like the most craziest time. But whatever, you guys were awesome. I loved hanging out with you. So next time I get to see you, I will have a normal face.
Yes. And my mouth is all better now too.
You were so nice. Okay, you just were so thoughtful. I loved it. It was so great to see you tonight. Okay, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We will be back in a few minutes.
All right, cool.
No, yes. Bye, you guys.
Happy New Year.
Unmute. Hey, it's 12:17. I'm a couple minutes late. Actually, I might step away for a minute, two afterwards. But
Don't worry, Douglas. Don't worry.
well,
You're fine.
I left. I called my brother last, and of course my nephew, and I talked for about 5-10 minutes, and I just handed the phone to my mom. But that means that
Segment 3, the end segment. Well, let's get back to our outline here. We wanted to talk some baseball. We already talked about catchers. You did talk a little bit about first base, but
yeah, well, I mean, I thought it was interesting that there were all those young first basemen. That like the question was like we talked about Brandon Belt and kind of the fallback options. I mean, these guys have some pretty good pedigrees.
what about Josh Bell to Washington?
I know that Josh Bell's been a favorite of a lot of people, and he just kind of had an off year last year.
If you didn't have him on your team last year, then that's fine. But for those of us that did have him, I am bitter a little bit after last year. I
mean, you're expecting a lot more out of him, and he was definitely disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a lot of disappointing players last year. Am I more disappointed in Josh Bell than I was in Javi Baez? Probably not.
But can you just discount these things when like Walker Buehler's year, that was horrible compared to what you expected from him? Can you just discount it completely? Or how about Christian Yelich? He was horrible. I still don't know fully what happened to him, and I just feel like he's risky for the first round.
There's no doubt. Last year, I would have said absolutely no risk. This year, there's some risk there. But then again, you're getting him at pick number 12 or 13, and much less risk at 13 than there was at 4. I believe in Christian Yelich. I believe, the first thing I want in a draft when I draft a player is I believe that the first round should be mostly players that can give you both power and speed, stolen bases and home runs. And Yelich is definitely one of the. I mean, Acuna's one, obviously, but Yelich is actually better at that than probably Mike Trout. Better at that than Mookie Betts. Better at that than Juan Soto. All the other names that are going in the first round. The real question is, what happened last year?
Well, let's talk about Josh Bell at first base. It's I can see, his contact rate has always been really good. He's always been able to take a walk, which both of those statistics fell last year. Obviously, his walks went down from 12 to 10, and that's not that much. If you're still walking 10% of the time, that's totally acceptable. His contact rate slipped, though, from like high 70s, upper 70s to 70. That's it. So, like, it was completely off kilter last year, but we didn't see him. I don't think that he missed a lot of time last year. I don't know if he played injured. We don't really know. But if you put it together with the years that Josh Bell has had, along with 2020, like, I can understand why people would definitely invest it in Josh Bell, and I still might even draft him because of the fact that it's his price point. Like you said, it's his cost.
Yeah, the cost now is pretty good, and it's definitely a better situation. I mean, if I can remember drafting in Washington first baseman like Adam LaRoche and Ryan Zimmerman, and Bell's got to be at least in that category.
So he's going 185th overall in NFBC ADP, and I would say that it would be round 15, when last year I would say that you would have had to get him at least like round
6,
7 or 8, right? He was
7.
not.
I mean, he was the darling of 2019. He did have a bit of a slow ending of the season, but he was still a superstar in 2019. What was his totals there? 37.
Yeah, I mean, he was crazy, and I believe that he does hit the ball. Let me look at him. Let me look at his I think his hard hit rate is good. I think that I definitely think that his power is real. You know what I mean?
I think that he's going to perform better than his draft position. The question is how much better. But that's the thing that I'm saying about the first base as a whole, is like, it's like you have to spend a pretty high pick to get Bellinger or Freeman, and everybody else.
I love Abreu. I don't think that Abreu is. We're not giving him enough credit.
Because he's been sort of that. He's been he's solidly productive, but I don't think solidly productive is a third round pick.
This guy he crushes. I would say he's the best. he's the best first baseman. Who else is besides Freeman?
Bellinger, who's still got first base eligibility.
Bellinger has not had a great
And,
time.
and I would take LeMahieu, who still has first base eligibility and may very well play first base.
Oh
as
no
silly
way!
as that is, because he actually has a good fielding second baseman. But
You're gonna draft him to play second base. Then that means you still need a first baseman. And I'm just saying, Abreu is my favorite. He's the most consistent.
I think first base has more holes in it than second base does. And I could see being in a situation even if I'm playing in a middle infielder league where I wind up picking two shortstops and I get another second baseman, and I'm looking at, like, if I have LeMahieu and like some people that are some second baseman, like like Jose Altuve is dropping in many leagues, and you might have Jose Altuve and LeMahieu, and you move LeMahieu over. The guy at second base that I'll probably wind up getting a lot of is Nick Madrigal.
So you don't have a problem with the way that the Astros. I know that you kind of changed your mind about the Astros cheating thing and all that, but as far as fantasy goes, there was a definite and noticeable drop in just in the tool of batting in general with the Astros. It covered. I mean, Correa was decent, but not the whole season.
Correa was decent. Springer was good, and that was probably the only one. Bregman.
But
Bregman's
like,
a lot.
yes,
Bregman, and it's like if I have Bregman is listed out, let's say at third base, it's like there's a lot of guys. It's like at third base, who do you want ahead of him? I want Jose Ramirez. I want Nolan Arenado.
I'll take Matt Chapman. I'll take lots of people.
Anthony Rendon is 3, and that's the only 3 I'm sure of. Because even the other guys that I liked at third base had bad years, and it wasn't because they didn't have a guy hitting a garbage can. Bryant had a bad year. Eugenio Suarez had a bad year.
Machado had a great year. I like Machado.
Had an upgrade. So all right, maybe that's number 4.
And what about Rafael Devers? He's okay still too.
Devers had a bad year, didn't he? He had a really off year last year, didn't he? Not quite the 200 batting average, but it wasn't.
Boston
wasn't anywhere. It wasn't anywhere near. Yeah, it wasn't anywhere near what we had come to expect from. He was probably as disappointing as Josh Bell was.
I don't know what everybody loves for DJ LeMahieu so much. That's the
thing about DJ LeMahieu is like how many people do you think have a really good shot at hitting 300? How long is that list?
Is he going to do that?
Well, I mean, the truth is, you can say it about anybody. Hitting 300 is not the easiest thing in the world. But if you were saying the odds on, like, if you had to pick, you make a $10 bet, pick one player to hit 300, who would you pick ahead of DJ LeMahieu?
Freddie Freeman. I would definitely Freddie Freeman or
still a short list is what I'm saying. It's
yes, it's a short list.
You get the guys like Luis Arias and maybe Donovan Solano, and it's like, no, I'd probably take LeMahieu ahead of him, but I understand that being ballpark-ish. It's like, yeah, Devers had a average year. He hit 263 with 11 home runs, so he was okay last year, but it was definitely disappointing because what he did the year before was.
I mean, DJ LeMahieu does have position eligibility too. I believe that he's going to qualify it all around.
It also right now the thing that's up in the air is where does he wind up playing? If he winds up playing if he winds up getting re-signed with New York, and I think that New York would be silly not to re-sign him.
I don't know what they're waiting for. What are they waiting for? They need him. That's for sure.
Well, that's the thing. Nobody's making moves. And now you brought up the Josh Bell thing. I said that it was the Padres and the Braves.
Yeah, you wanted to
we got to give the Nationals credit. They're moving. They signing Bell is a significant move.
Fine. They're still the oldest team in baseball. They're really not getting. I mean,
well, this is the thing. This is the thing about DJ LeMahieu. It's like, all right, he was on the Cubs years ago, and he wasn't very good. He was a field only guy. He went to Colorado, learned how to hit, became a 300 batting average guy.
No, but he didn't.
But he came to the Yankees, and the thing about him that makes this thing is that 2019 he hit 26 home runs. So he added the home run thing to his arsenal. Now,
after he left Colorado.
Yeah, which is crazy because we don't understand what that is, and I've said that all along. It's like if you see all this huge jumps in batting for the New York Yankees, how is Marcus Thames not being named the manager of some team? He's been their hitting coach for 5-6 years now, And it's like what he's done with Gio Urshela and Mike Tauchman and DJ LeMahieu is nothing short of the best coaching in the history of the
Let's
game.
forget about the Yankees coaching and shit like
Well,
that.
no, I'm just saying, like, but the thing about 26, if you take LeMahieu's batting average and you throw 25, 26 home runs, that's going to be among the best players in the game. That literally could be a first round level player. And that's the thing that makes LeMahieu there. I do have him as that 1-2-2A, like he's third of the three. But
What about but Manny Machado has to go right up there, even maybe.
Manny Machado at third base goes ahead of who were you talking about there? So that I like.
Jose Ramirez is not reliable either. He's not reliable.
Jose Ramirez is the batting average is going to go up and down, but the truth is, even in his awful year, he hit some home runs and he stole some bases, and that was enough to prop up his value. Even though he was a first round pick, he performed like a 6th round pick or a 7th round pick.
Yes, and one year he performed like I should not have been drafted at all. That was recently, a couple years ago.
No, 2 years ago he had that horrible start to the season, but he still wound up with a decent number in the counting categories, which propped him up a little bit. But no, I want Jose Ramirez more. But who was the third baseman we were talking about? Oh, we're talking about Alex Bregman.
I like all kinds of third basemen. I like Matt Chapman, even though his batting average is quite suspect.
Didn't he have a pretty bad year last year? He falls in that same category as a lot
Matt,
of these players.
it depends on what you're looking at. Like Matt Olson had a horrible season. If you're looking at
I'm wondering if I'm
batting average. I think Chapman is pretty bad too.
The two Matts in Jose Ramirez's bad year, he had 256 for the season, which is about league average, but he still put up 23 home runs and 24 stolen bases. That is a valuable player in a bad season.
What about Kyle Seager? Lewis used to tell me that he was just mediocre, and he is kind of mediocre.
I think Kyle Seager is sort of he is a good professional Major League Baseball first baseman, but he's not good enough really for a fantasy team. Last year, I think he had the good stretches of his life were the 60 games that they played. There's enough track record on him that I don't see him being. I've seen him drafted in a couple of leagues as a starting third baseman, and I wouldn't do that.
What about Maikel Franco? What about
Maikel Franco? Not a chance.
So you love Teoscar Hernandez. I was talking about him the other day, and I feel like he could really be one of the three true outcome kind of hitters.
He has a strikeout issue.
He hits the ball fucking hard as shit.
As hard as he hits the ball and as fast as he runs, there is in that realm of things, all right, maybe it's only a 10% chance that he could be a 30 home run, 20 stolen base guy. And like I said, that's what I draft first. Is I draft guys that are going to give me both ends.
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
I expect 30 home runs from him, and I expect more than 10 stolen bases. 20 is a little.
I don't know if he steals lots of bases though. He
stole like 7 last year or something like that. It was it's 7. Well, let's look it up before we.
No, he stole 6 bases last year in 200.
Which if you multiply by 3 is about 18, right? I mean that's significant.
So it would absolutely be 18, which is it's 3 times any other season, and that's if we
what I'm saying is like. What if you have a guy? All right, the strikeouts are scary because the average could drop precipitously. But let's say the average just drops a bit. Let's say it goes to 265, right? So here's a guy, decent number of RBIs, decent number of runs, but he hits 33 home runs, steals 13 bases. That's a very good player for fantasy. And that's not really a 33 home runs, 13 stolen bases, 265 batting average. 90
Can you really give him that batting average? And you cannot give him that batting average, dude, with that many strikeouts. You just cannot expect anywhere.
No, he hit last year above league average. I'm bringing him down to league average.
He struck out 30% of the time, and he's always strikes out 30% of the time. I mean, every year he strikes out over 30% of the time.
He's also like moving. Like he's 20? He's turning 28 this year. He'll be 28 going into this year. He's moving in the thing. There is something to be said that a younger player like that could improve. He
absolutely could be at the peak of his career, which means that he could potentially steal.
And what's his ADP?
It's going up though, dude. I'm not kidding around. People are loving him, and I say you better watch out with Teoscar Hernandez, where you put him? He's going 68th overall, dude. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's a little high. When I was really on him, I was thinking that I was drafting him around the 90th pick. But
it's
at
George
60,
Springer. Look at this. It's George Springer, a Rosarina, and then Teoscar Hernandez.
well,
And
that's the question. I mean,
no, you gotta
believe- I
listen.
mean, Springer has a track history, but you really picking a Rosarina ahead of him?
Fuck no. I'm not taking Teoscar Hernandez or a Rosarina. I will tell you the people going after him, those two that I will take happily, like Michael Conforto, I will take happily. Dude, Brandon Lau, I will take happily. I will even take probably Castellanos, I would take over.
Yeah, Nick Castellanos has dropped a little more than that. I still believe in Castellanos. I still believe in Moustakas, both on the Reds.
But they have such horrible defense that it's like it's hard when you're on a National League team and you have such bad defense. Like,
I mean, like take they're not doing this. They haven't done it with Castellanos, but you take like what Madden and Ross did with Schwarber. If you were to take Castellanos and literally like pull him out of every game that matters in the 8th inning, so what if he only has 512 at bats instead of 612?
maybe
He's
he'll.
still going to produce some good numbers.
That's
And I think that losing 100 bats is actually high if they do that, because you're really talking about you're not going to pull them out of games when you're down 7-1, and you're not going to pull them out of games when you're up 7-1. You're pulling them out of games when it's 4-2.
Kyle Lewis is one that's on here, actually going right before Byron Buxton, which I think Byron Buxton is an okay pick in drafts, but I didn't wait. I really think that he should be. It's one of those things where if you see him really late in your draft, you say to yourself, like, at this point, he has the most upside. Because
No, I in that fielding league, I had planned for him to be my center fielder. He was drafted about a round higher than I wanted to go. I wound up falling back on Lorenzo Cain, which I thought was perfectly fine.
but
In
look
the
at
14th round.
what do you think of? I love Alex Verdugo. I don't like the fact that
I love
the Red-
Alex Verdugo.
Okay, and so
I think
and Ramon Laureano, he's also going after. He's going 141 overall.
I mean, I would take Teoscar Hernandez well ahead of him. I would take Castellanos ahead of Laureano. Laureano is erratic.
At 6,
He
okay.
could improve, but
But I'm telling
right now he hasn't been able to put it together for a season yet.
it's 5 rounds later that you have to pick that you would have to take.
And I think that it's highly likely you're going to get about 5 rounds less value. You know,
Out of Laureano.
yeah. I mean, what do you really expect from Laureano?
I just think he's got great defense. He's got an excellent arm, and I do think that he has lots of talent. He could steal bases.
In my dynasty league, I drafted him young, and I sold him for a lot, and I feel kind of bad about it because he's actually turned out better than I thought he'd turn out.
So
And-
then, yes, go ahead.
But he's still.
Ian Happ. Do you
Well,
like
it's like-
Ian Happ? He's one of your cubbies.
God, yeah, Ian Happ has so much talent, and he's never showing it. I hope he does it. You know, the roster resource has, they have starting in center field for the Cubs is they have actually Nico Horner. Happ is probably going to take Schwarber's spot, which I might be more comfortable for him.
Let's see what I have for cubbies.
You know, I wish I feel I do this sometimes with my Cubs. Is that I will draft it, all things being equal, I'll draft a Cub over somebody else. But at the same time, I think I'm a little harsher critic on them because I think it's that I might be a little like I probably liked Schwarber more than you did. But I sort of put blinders on. I reined myself in, and my hope can only go so far with Ian Happ.
Ian Happ is supposed to bat leadoff, dude, according to what I have in my notes here. Ian Happ batting leadoff.
I don't know how that's going to stick because he doesn't really have the makeup of a leadoff hitter. And the Cubs.
When was the last time the Cubbies had a leadoff hitter that was a normal leadoff?
Fowler.
Who?
2016. Fowler in 2016.
That
was the last time. And the truth was that was the reason. I mean, because I was talking with my brother, it's like the Cubs got sort of lucky to win this because Fowler was crucial to that win. And the strangest thing about the 2016 victory is that it was very important that the National League lose the All-Star game that year because they were able to play more games in Cleveland than that, which meant that Schwarber got to play more games. The Cubs actually won 3 games on the road, only 1 game at Wrigley Field. It was sort of like that thing just lined up. but Fowler was a thing. And since Fowler's been gone, they've tried different people.
Fowler
Honestly-
lost his leadoff spot. He's not a leadoff guy anymore, by the way.
Yeah, but 2016 he was. That was the last time the Cubs had a solid league. The truth is, in watching the last 3 years, I think that the fact that because the nature of their team, when it has the core, Rizzo is consistent, but the other guys, Bryant, Baez, Contreras, Hayward, all Schwarber, those guys are erratic and can strike out a lot. You sort of need a table setter for that kind of team, and that's the reason why I think so much of LeMahieu going to Yankees. They sort of need that guy that always gets on. It's like when the Cubs were a World Series team, they had two guys that could count on to get on base. One was Fowler, and the guy that was actually better at it was Zobrist, though he didn't have the speed. They don't have that anymore, and that's what hurts them. Is like the guy Malpal was saying they had one of the 3 worst offenses in baseball last year. It's because nobody on the team is a guy that you can count on and day out. And except for maybe Rizzo.
What? So Nico Horner is looking. They have this depth chart that I'm using here says Nico Horner is their everyday second baseman. They're starting second baseman. Is that what you have too?
I have it reversed. I have Happ in left field and Horner in center.
Okay.
But
Who's at second base?
Boat.
David Boat. Okay, well he's in the outfield for me. So the Cubbies.
We don't know where they're going to put these guys, but it's the same 3 guys. However you slice it, right?
Either way, Ian Happ batting leadoff. He is the closest thing to a leadoff batter that they have. If you look at the rest of the people in there,
What's his OBP? It's like under
343.
Really, it's that high. Wow.
The OBP that's most horrible is Javi Baez because his strikeouts are caught up to him now, and that's a bad thing. I won't be
drafted by us either. But the thing with those strikeout guys is they're going to have some really, really great seasons and some really poor seasons. They're going to be erratic.
I believe that once the strikeout catches up to you, if you either stop striking out so much or you're just done. Like they figured you out, and that's really all of baseball. Like if you do not fix the things, your shortcomings that can be taken advantage of, then you will not last in this game of adjustments. And that's Chris Bryant is an interesting character. Do you think that he would hit and play better if he moved to another team where he felt like, because the whole court case that got,
I think he's immensely talented, and I think that there's something to be said for the fact that there is some bad blood between him and the team, and he might be one of those guys that would do well to have a new place.
I mean, that case was actually more significant than most people give any credit to, because it basically told teams that it was okay to leave your minor league players in the minor leagues as long as you want, even if they're ready to come up, just so that you can have control of them for another season. And that's obviously what they're doing. I mean, every year in and year out, and then here's a player that says, I was ready to come up and you left me down just so you could keep control over and steal a year from me, basically. And
I mean, speaking of the historical record, George Springer sued first the year before him.
Did he lose?
And he lost. And the first thing that he did once he was able to leave was leave, right?
Of course. Well, it definitely is going to affect the relationship between the ownership and I don't know about the manager, whatever, but I think Chris Bryant felt like he got the shaft. But if you're given the option because you're great at football and you're great at baseball, what are you going to choose to play? You're going to choose football because you don't have to spend so much time like working your way up, going through the minor league.
That was a question because it came up with that Kyler Murray guy, and Kyler Murray is the exception to the rule.
Why?
I think that most people will do better in baseball than they will in football. And I give you 2 examples. One is of a career, a guy that was good in both sports where his career was cut short. Bo Jackson made more money as a baseball player than he did as a football player. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something we can look up. But the really crazy one is that there was this year, I think it was 83, where I don't know what year it was, but whatever year it was, 2 wide receivers came out. One wide receiver that people projected to be one of the best wide receivers in the draft, and then one who was a 3rd-round pick. And the one guy was Calvin Johnson. The other guy was Jeff Samardzija. Jeff Samardzija made more money and is still earning money than Megatron, who is arguably one of the 10 best wide receivers in the history of the game.
I definitely. I mean, look, I think the older.
And so now the quarterbacks in football get paid,
Well,
but every
Chris,
quarterback may be pass rushers, but everywhere else you're better off as a baseball player, in my opinion.
that's because you're old, dude. If you were young, you would be like, no, I could play football. Then by the time I retire, I could still go play baseball for all the years that it takes to get from the minor leagues to the majors. It's like
I
7
mean,
year process.
No, I mean you have to be the first things first. You have to have good advice over where you're going to play. You know, I mean, there are a lot of guys that can't that there are a lot of people who play two sports in college.
They choose
And-
which one they want to make. Where do they think they're going to make the most money? And
Right, they choose that, but part of that is like famously, Tony Gonzalez played basketball and football. It is fairly clear he was a better football player than he was a basketball player, and I think that John Elway was a better football player than he was a baseball player. For most of these guys, Russell Wilson's a better football player than he was a baseball player, and he also falls in the quarterback. Where in football, that's the position that gets paid. Maybe the end rushers get paid. Everyone else, you're looking at short careers and that. And what's to say if your problem is it takes you 4 years to get to the major leagues?
It's longer than that, though. It's usually
right. Well, so now you do your you do your like that. Who is it? Wentz from Florida State, who was a two-sport athlete, went to the pros. Then he went back to play baseball at age 30 or whatever, and his 4 years he stayed in the minors and he never made it. It's like the 4 years doesn't go away because you're 6 years older.
I just think that it's whatever
Unless
it is.
you're a Bo Jackson type talent.
CTE should be taken into consideration to every young football player that needs to consider the long term.
And that's not the right name.
Who
he was a quarterback for the Florida State who quarterbacked about 10 years ago for the Carolina Panthers. Wentz is the Eagles guy, but it's somebody with a name similar to that.
So whatever, any fucking guy that plays football and baseball,
if somebody's listening, I don't want to. I'm correcting myself. That's all.
Okay, well, I'm cursing, so it's that time of night.
It's 2021, so you can curse.
In 15 minutes, I gotta go because I gotta call my mom. I told her that.
No, that's cool. I didn't expect to be here forever. I did.
Message.
As far as draft guys, we're talking about outfielders. Interestingly, who do you have on your list starting center fielder for the Phillies and for the Astros?
Okay, the Phillies. Let me go to the National League East.
Because I think one of the things people in fantasy baseball talk about a lot is stolen bases. There's a chance that those two could be stolen base guys. It looks like, from what I see, Roman Quinn is going to be their center fielder unless something changes.
Looks like Roman Quinn will steal bases like no other. He will steal bases.
Something that if you're a fantasy baseball player, you got to know this.
I have him batting 8th in the outfield.
Well, that hurts a little on the stolen bases.
Henry playing second base.
But if they have the DH, batting 8th isn't going to hurt his steals. Batting 8th, they don't want you to steal on the pitcher, batting after you. But and then for the Astros, it looks like Miles Straw is going to be their center fielder.
I just think that a guy like Roman Quinn has the green light. Whatever he's going to go, if he can get on base, he will go. But he's got a problem getting on base, so I don't know if he's. That's why he bats last, because he can't. First, he's got to get on base. But Harper is not. I don't know. When am I ever going to give up on Harper, dude? I feel like with. Are you there? I can't really hear.
No, my mother came in the room, wanted me to answer a question that I didn't know the
answer.
Did
you do it? No.
I didn't know the answer to it. It's like, the question was, who's the guy that writes science fiction novels who's named Brad something or other?
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Don't you love science fiction?
I do, but this is I think this is like the guy that does like Dan Brown type novels. He does like these kind of like convoluted, weird, secret society stuff.
Okay, let's go talk about first baseman again real quick. Okay, let's talk about first baseman, the depth.
We really haven't gotten to the guys at the end that we were talking about.
I think Aguilar should be talked about. That's why I have us back here. Jesus Aguilar, he should be talked about, right? I mean,
there was no way I was drafting him last year. He did enough with the Marlins last year to put him on the radar. But if he's your starting first baseman, are you comfortable?
I'm not. I'm talking about like late in drafts. I'm talking about because he's going. I don't know where he is now, but he's going late. He might not even be drafted in a lot of
I listed out like, well, the guy we talked about earlier. I would definitely take Brandon Belt over him.
for sure. Well, I don't know if you would, man, because
I would. I know what I'm thinking.
okay, yes, for sure. So his earliest is 209 overall, and his latest that he's gone is 377 overall. To me, that's a huge. There's such a discrepancy. I mean, look at all of the numbers between that. That's 100 picks.
One thing I pointed out to you before the game was that before we talked was that there's all these young guys that really are unproven, but have really a high ceiling.
You like Bobby Dahlbeck, right? Because you really.
I would take Bobby Dahlbeck. I would take Jared Walsh.
I knew.
I would take Ryan Mountcastle. Andrew Vaughn, who was a former first-round pick, is slated to take over as the DH for the White Sox. And if you think that the White Sox lineup is going to be good for Abreu, it's got to be good for him too.
Okay, so you like Vaughn.
And then the other guy that falls in that category, who's a very young guy, and I guess you could kind of throw Pete Alonso and Luke Voigt in there too, but is Josh Fuentes is probably going to be the starting first base for Colorado. And Colorado has made lesser talents look like good fantasy players.
Not lately, dude. It seems like.
Who is that guy that wound up going to the Miami Marlins, and everyone was always big on him every year, and he just sucked on the Marlins, the first baseman, just a couple of years ago. You know, like, but he was like the backup first baseman in Colorado. He hit like 12 home runs in 80 games, and everyone's like, he jumped over to that, and he was just horrible. And every year, everyone was saying he could be good, and he was just horrible.
But the only good thing about him was that he was in college.
I think of those guys like back in the old days, the Brad Hops and the Morton. What was that third baseman they used to have? Like just these mindless nobody names.
Okay, so here we go with okay, what do you think of Garrett Cooper? Is he gonna? He doesn't steal bases, so he's. I really believe at first base you can find some people that steal bases now. A few.
Who at first base is going to steal you 10 or more?
I don't know. Freddie Freeman could totally steal 10 or more bases.
I mean, truthfully, Anthony Rizzo could steal 10 bases.
Maybe not.
They normally don't. I mean, Rizzo has had a year where he's stolen 10 bases. Goldschmidt has had a year.
So maybe what I should have said is that, like, there's actually first basemen that will steal a handful of bases, and usually I just don't. I'm not used to seeing that at first base. So no, that it's not like anybody's stolen bases. But
I think the overall subject that I'm talking about with first base is I think there was a point when we played fantasy baseball 10, 15 years ago where like the first base was the anchor of your team, and now it's a relatively weak position.
What about Eric Hosmer, dude, who Malpel will say is he calls him, God, it's some nickname about not getting out of the infield when you make a hit. Like his hits are always in the infield.
Something like that. That's what we call them.
He calls him. But
we call those hits.
Look, man, this is a guy, Eric Hosmer, that hits in the middle of the lineup. He is going to get everyday playing time at bats. He doesn't go crazy with anyone, but his RBIs are good. His RBIs are way better than the spot that he's getting drafted at, and his home runs are decent too. So I know he keeps getting older.
I mean, like, to me, has he ever actually had a good year? Like, he's had like okay years, and he's piled up a decade of okay years. I really thought that it was a terrible signing for him. I think that the Padres I think the Padres would have been better off with Mitch Moreland at first than him. So Hosmer is a better field.
Was not available at the time, but either way, here's the thing about him: he is totally underrated, as in my opinion. And yes,
I mean he's a lifetime 278 hitter, which is probably his best stat.
That yes, he's going to get a good batting average, but he also hits home runs, and he's going to.
I mean, he's had
home runs.
He hit 25 home runs twice in his career.
Okay,
he's been over 23 times in. Let's not count 20 against him.
20 home runs. Can we give him 20 home runs?
I'd be 20. I mean, if you said 19, I'd be happier. At 19, 18, I think.
Let's give him 19. Okay,
his best year, he had 90. He had 98 RBIs twice, but
that's what I'm talking about. He's on a great team too. The San Diego Padres are run scoring.
Well, he in 38 games last year, so we'll call that 40. So we'll multiply it by 4. He knocked in 23 RBIs. Sorry, knocked in 36 RBIs. So that's a lot if you multiply by 4. The RBIs could make it a little better than I'm thinking.
He does hit a lot of
RBIs.
field. He doesn't hit the ball that hard. I don't think his exit velocity is great. Okay, when he
That's
hits, but he gets on base. He has a decent batting average. He's gonna get lots of RBIs because of where he hits in the batting order. He's surrounded by a bunch of young studs. Okay, offensively, and he's just boring. But he is totally. I will take him over any.
Where's he being drafted at?
Let
Because
me-
he might fall into that category of players like.
Eric Hosmer, dude, he's getting
let-
no love.
Let me take. Oh, it's all catchers. No wonder. You know, he might fall in that category of.
Oh, look at this.
Let me take
I gotta tell you, I'm not very pleased with what I'm seeing here.
136.
That's to me, that's really high. I just don't.
No, it is really high.
He's gone
I
as
got-
early as 84th overall. Who in their right mind is doing that? That is just ridiculous.
I mean, actually, his lowest is only 172, which would be still not a huge steal at that price.
And look at Mike Moustakas is going right before him, and he qualifies at both first and second base. So you got that, and I would definitely take him over Eric Hosmer.
Well, I mean, the point being is that
What about Rhys Hoskins?
You've told me enough on Hosmer to say like he'd be the kind of guy, but unfortunately, he's not.
Hold on.
If I took a Bobby Dahlbeck and it didn't pan out, I'd fall back on Hosmer, but it doesn't seem like that would be the case.
Okay, I got to move on now. I'm talking about Rhys Hoskins now, and I'm trying to figure out why he's like 35 picks after Eric Hosmer. And has everybody given up on Rhys Hoskins? Because I will definitely give him a chance, dude.
I think he's much the same. Like he's a guy that strikes out a good bit, has a good amount of power.
A lot of hard contact, a lot of hard hits. I don't know how much he makes contact.
I actually have this. What do you call it? I have. In my dynasty league, he's been my first baseman for a number of years.
I don't even see him on the Phillies, dude.
Now he's up.
Oh yes, I do. I see him.
He's their first baseman, but
okay,
I now have him at because of the accretion every year. Like this year is going to cost me $25, and I don't think I think it's too high.
91. He's projected at one place. He's projected 91 runs, 87 RBIs. That's fucking huge. And can't even tell me that. I just don't see that. He's projected for 31 home runs, and yes,
I think
238 average. But his on base percentage is much better and brighter than his batting average. So here's the thing: Rhys Hoskins going after guys like Eric Hosmer, and that I'm sorry. I'm a Rhys Hoskins all the way because the upside is much higher with him.
I see that like I thought I saw Max Muncy going ahead of him. I'd probably take him ahead of Max Muncy.
Max Muncy is an interesting cat too. He's very interesting. He plays lots of places. I think he's going to be eligible at lots of spots. His batting average is horrendous, dude. It is worse than Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, Rhys Hoskins is like what, a 240 hitter.
But Rhys Hoskins, remember when he came up and everybody was talking about how hard he hits the ball and like all this upside. And this is how fantasy players are. They expect this guy to be something that he's not ready to be. And then a year later, they forget completely about him because they're on to the next new prospect.
No, I mean, I think that is really, I know we only have like 4 minutes left to go, but that's kind of the thing about this is that this year, because last year is up in the air and we still remember it's 2018, there's a lot of players that are going really late that we can make a really good rationalization for saying they should go higher than that. And so it's not, it's like you probably should, wait on a lot of things because there's a lot of stuff. We haven't even got to the pitchers, but there's a lot of people going late that are good.
We're still trying to get through first base. Do you know that the fact that Eric Hosmer is going ahead of Rhys Hoskins is very intriguing to me?
Yeah, no, it might be the what do you call it? Like there's a thing like in stocks when there's like a really volatile year where people like retreat to safety, and like you can buy a stock and it can go up and down and you can do some really good things with that. But when things are bad, you kind of put your money to the bank in a money market fund. Eric Hosmer is kind of that money market fund, uninteresting, but it'll get you a little bit of money.
Well,
I'd rather take the risk when it comes to base because the thing about winning in fantasy baseball is getting players that overperform what the slot
Fine,
dictate.
exactly. And the whole reason to use the average draft position at all is to see where other people are valuing a player. So you don't necessarily value players. You definitely don't. Not
I
necessarily.
also think that there's going to be a widespread in the way people value players. There's going to be a lot of weird stuff going on.
That's why you
I-
have to be very aware of what's going on in your own draft, and you have to be aware of how many first basemen are left on the board, how many are there available.
You read that a guy is the 188th pick, and it tells you that he goes in the nth round, but it just takes one guy who really likes him, and all of a sudden he's the 11th. He's a 9th round pick.
It
Like
should
me.
never be. It should never be. If this is the ADP, like I don't see that it could ever be ninth. But it also depends on where you are on your team. Have you actually at some point in the draft, did you draft a guy with a horrible batting average, but he hits a lot of home runs? So you need to make up for this horrible batting average. You draft a guy that's going to be safer with the batting average. But if you have a bunch of good batting average hitters already, then you can totally say
like Rhys Hoskins.
Forget the
highest
batting
draft-
average. It's not going to hurt me. I will go for the home run. So it's like baseball.
What I'm saying is Rhys Hoskins' highest draft position is 76. His lowest draft position is 230. You have that going on all over the place where there's these really great spreads. It's going to be tough to draft because people are. If there's guys you want, you're probably in the past. You could probably go. I'll jump a round or two. If there's a guy you really really want, you might have to jump more.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you have a choice, if I had a choice of Moustakas or Hoskins or Hosmer, dude, I'm definitely taking. I would probably take.
I'd probably take Moose.
Yeah, maybe, but he was bad too last year. His numbers are just showing age. But I love that he's eligible at two positions. I just don't.
I really think that the thing that we thought about Cincinnati last year with Moustakas and Castellanos getting signed really didn't disappear. Those guys are both good hitters, and they could have monster years in that ballpark. I just think that last year is simultaneously something that we got to look at closely to see how people deal with adverse situations. But at the same time, we have to discount it.
They both got new teams too. When you go to a new team, it's
Yeah, exactly.
It might not be that easy to get to that comfortable. But Kingery, he needs to do something different. This I don't think that Lenny was telling me that he believes that Philly is not by any stretch of the word quitting or trying to rebuild, because they were saying something about Zach Wheeler being up in talks or whatever, and the owner came out. He was like, don't you dare say that we're not trying to win. We'll spend money. I wouldn't trade Zach Wheeler for
I think that there's a chance that we could be seeing nothing happening in baseball for quite a little while, and then
the Phillies are ready. They're not going to sell
things at the end as the season nears, and boom, boom, boom. But right now,
the owners don't want to open up unless they know that they have fans in the stadiums, and the players don't want to postpone the season because then their pay gets cut.
Right, yeah, and so there's a lot that's up in the air.
So they're fighting once again about who is going to. The players want to make their salary. They know that if they don't play enough games, that their salary will get prorated or whatever. And the owners know that if they don't let fans in, I don't see why you can't fans in. Or let's be serious here.
Let some fans in.
Yes, fine. Everybody that comes in their own little tribe, whatever, up to 10 people in the family, they get to have a little section, and then there's 6 seats in between. But think of how many you could still fill up a good chunk of a ballpark with fans, and the ownership could, at least make enough money to stay open.
You also have the question is, if the stadium were to, if everyone just said there's no limitations how many people can be there, would the stadium fill?
No.
The thing is, even though the owners want fans in the stadium, even if all the regulations were off, you're probably still looking at, in best case scenario, probably losing about half your attendance, in some places more.
I think that it would be more for me, if I was going to go to a baseball game, I would feel more comfortable knowing that they're only selling a third or a portion of the tickets.
I didn't even think of that.
So that I would be much more inclined to buy a ticket if I knew that they were only going to sell out.
I can see myself buying a ticket, and then when people start coming in, working my way to the grandstand in the corner, so I'm away from everybody.
I do think that some teams would have fans that would get to a point they would say, people are itching to go back to game. I think it's just a way to.
I mean, the real thing is if the baseball guys could figure out a way to play a full season, yet start it a month later, then everybody would win.
But
Like
these
if they could,
can't
I mean,
get
what
ready in
what
time, dude. These weenies,
what-
they can't get ready quick enough.
I mean, what it would take is, I mean, last year they played all the postseason games except for the first round in one situation. What if they played all September in one spot? I mean, not September, all of the last month of the season, which happened to be November, in one place, or two places, or four
There's
places.
a lot of ways to play the full season if they wanted to, and I just don't.
Because
I don't know why anybody's even saying that they should not. Won't they be vaccinated if they want to be vaccinated? Won't it happen by then? I mean, aren't they?
well, no, the big thing is that a stadium without fans in the States is something that the owners are claiming is a losing proposition for them.
For sure, but what about the players? You don't think they'll be able to get vaccinated by March if they're not, if they want to?
No, I actually do think that I think that they would be on the front end if they wanted to of the thing. I mean, I think that they would purposely not be the first in line, but once 10 million people are vaccinated, they could sneak into that and be vaccinated by March 15th or
They
20th.
could definitely be vaccinated by the time baseball starts. That's
Because
my,
it would be a bad look if they were first.
of course, but they're not first because right now we don't even need them to be vaccinated. But that's what I'm saying. Like by that time, now that we have more than one company making the vaccine, it's going to be like by February. But you know
No,
what?
I mean
In my
that
mind,
you're-
this
you're-
COVID shit should have been done like a long
you're,
time.
you're the owner and you're looking at your game and you go, I can have a game at my home stadium on April 4th and have nobody there, and I can have a game on September 12th and probably have my stadium 3/4 full.
I don't see why we can't have fans there on April or March or whatever. Why are we not allowed to have fans at that point?
Well, I mean, I think that just like I said, even if there were no restrictions by the state departments, I don't think a lot of people would go. I think you might get 12 or 18,000 in a place that normally got 30 or 40. Like I don't think that there's.
Okay.
I mean, like, when was the last time you went to a crowded anything?
I love it. Would be like my dream come true.
No, I mean, when was the last time
a
you went to
baseball
a movie or
I hate being around people anyway. Like I don't want them in my personal space ever, and I avoid crowds for the most part. I pretty much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's been a while. It's like a couple friends of mine went to
If I
actually went to the theater to see the Wonder Woman movie that came out on the 25th.
okay.
And they said there were like 9 people there. Now, admittedly, they went to like a 4:00 showing on a Tuesday or on Christmas Day or whatever. But he said that people weren't there because, well, one, you could watch it at home, but two, people didn't go to the theater because the theater is considered a dangerous place.
It totally
And
is.
a baseball stadium is considered a dangerous place. I think a baseball stadium is less dangerous than a theater. I did go to a football game this year to see my UCF play one time, but I was a good distance away from anybody.
So here's the thing, though: if I could buy tickets to a place that was only selling 1/3 of the tickets of totally that they normally do, I would be the first one to go there.
No, you're right. It would make you feel better rather than having
Yes.
all the.
And I think that it should be done because, not just for the fact that people want to go to games and the owners want to make money, but for the fact that people need jobs.
My concern with that is I'm not if the owners are really saying it's true that they're not making money with an empty stadium, I don't think they're really going to be making money with a third full stadium.
Why not?
They'll make more money than nobody.
They have the games there. They have to open them up. They have to put the lights on. They have to open the bathrooms. They have to do everything. It's not like that if they didn't have fans that they could just not open the ballpark because the ballpark is open. So yes,
No, I mean you've heard the staggering numbers that some of them are quoting as far as their losses go.
Oh, shit, we already know that because they never.
I'm just saying what do you let's I mean I know it's not the right number, but let's say there's 10,000 fans in the seats, and each fan pays $50 each, right? What is that? That's $50,000. Okay, that's probably a little low. So they get $100,000 a game. Is that gonna
just for if you say that 10? How many people can go? 10,000.
Probably about 13,000.
Let's say 10,000. It's easier to add that way. So 10,000 people at $50. That's
500,000. Isn't that?
It's I think it's
500,000, right?
500,000 just for tickets. and then you can then afford to pay the people that.
Money on the tickets. Wow, I didn't think about it yet because tickets are super expensive. But the question is
Even
that
at $50,
no, I'm thinking that 50 is the total counting, because I think that people are going to be not everyone's going to be buying the expensive seats, so they theoretically could do that. They could force people to buy the expensive seats.
at the Pirates, you could probably go for $30, dude, and they'll charge you 10 to park your car, and it's great
No,
time.
it is kind of crazy. I don't go to many games, and the games that I go to, I when I do go to a game, I go to this because it's closest, and
Which
they're
one?
the
Tampa?
Tampa Bay Rays, and they're the cheapest place in the country. You can
Are
still
they?
get tickets.
Well, they're in a bad part of town.
Well, you can still get tickets. Like there'll always be a thing like at Publix. It's a grocery store. I don't know if they have them where you're at. Where you
No,
take
they don't.
you take your receipt. There's Publix days, and you can go to a game. It's like $6. But those tickets, even full price, are $12. It's not like it's a huge savings.
Okay, I gotta go. I gotta call my mother and tell her.
Good night, happy New Year. It was
Okay,
fun.
thanks to everybody for joining in. Totally happy New Year to everybody. Let's just try to find more commonality. Let's try to find more things that we have in common. And
Allowing fans. I'm just looking at the thing. Allowing Malpal says allowing fans while keeping businesses closed would be a bad look. Yeah, that's true.
well, they should not be keeping businesses closed, dude. By then, are you joking me? If we continue to stay in lockdown, we are all fucked, dude. We are all the middle class.
I have not been in lockdown since April.
Yeah, because you have a Republican governor, dude.
And people die left and right
But
here.
guess what? They're dying left and right here too, and in California, supposedly. But the people that locked up all the way,
and our Republican governor has been exposed as suppressing the numbers along the way. It's like there's far more dead than they say.
I don't believe that. I believe that New York has been completely. We basically count everything as a COVID death. If you've had COVID in the last 6 months, you are COVID. I promise you this. I will send you the CDC page where it says that they have probable deaths. They have, it's like if.
I mean, there are comorbidities where people. I mean, the truth is, very few people die of AIDS. They die of a pneumonia related to AIDS or something else related to AIDS.
I totally understand that.
Very few people, but if you have a congestive heart failure, or you have what's the one with the breathing,
respiratory problems,
respiratory failure with COVID, it's caused by that. It's part of the same thing.
It could be okay. It could definitely.
It could be the unlucky.
Don't have high. What about the people that aren't diabetic? That aren't. They don't have COPD. They don't have these problems. What about them? What's the chances that they're going to live if they get COVID?
Well, it really depends a lot
99.
on age.
It's 99 point.
Well, I mean, my uncle is in the hospital right now, and he didn't have any comorbidities.
Well,
and
there was some Congress guy just died, 41 years old.
41-year-old guy.
Fine.
So it can happen. And I mean, the truth is,
it could
like
happen, and you can also die from the flu.
It's a small percent, 0.4, 0.5. Yeah, but the problem is when you live in a society where we're allowing 12. How many people have been infected?
So many, 15 million.
Then 0.4% becomes an issue. That's the problem. If it's like the flu.
Did you check the flu season? Did you check what they have listed for flu deaths in the flu?
Well, I mean, the truth is, we don't know. We don't, because this thing ran like the flu. We don't know. It's like the prep. There are a couple things we do know. Like I think that everybody is washing their hands better, and I think that a large portion of society is wearing a mask, and these things are
not healthy for you.
There's no harm to it, and there is something that helps.
I do think there's harm to it.
I mean, medically, there's no harm.
That you're not supposed to breathe in. Like you breathe in oxygen, you breathe out carbon dioxide or monoxide, whatever it is.
I mean, right now, there have been people that work in hospitals that have been wearing masks for 12 hours a day.
Horrible.
For months and months, and you don't see any problem as far as that goes. Some of them get COVID, but less than they would normally get. And that's the thing. It's like you can wear a mask.
I just wonder if it works. Well, and there's a good reason to question whether it does work, because if we've been wearing masks in New York since March, we've been wearing masks everywhere we go.
The truth is, after the big spike in there, New York has done better than about half of the states since
It's
the
the
first
same.
thing.
It's
And
the
they-
same as the states that don't wear masks. It's the same though. Like we're having just as much of a spike as any other state that did wear masks or
No,
didn't.
I mean, percentage-wise, it's a lower spike than
Okay.
others.
Do you think
But-
that it's been
but the
long
thing
enough
is,
to be able to tell like what if what is working like after 8 months of doing whatever it is that your state?
I can tell you this thing, right? Do you remember at the beginning of the COVID lockdown, there was a battle over it was either North Dakota or South Dakota about whether these meat companies should stay open, right?
Shut down because they had a bunch of COVID at it.
They didn't shut down. They actually stayed open, and a lot of people got COVID there. And the only thing that they did well was wear masks. And the one thing you'd say about those guys, now it sucks that some people were sick for 10, 12 days.
Okay, but they got COVID and they wore masks.
They wore masks. None of them died. And so after that, they studied that and they said, what a mask does for you personally is that it minimizes how much COVID you get when you do get it.
I
And that's
think that vitamin D does that too. Vitamin D does it. I don't know if the mask is.
no, vitamin D is a good thing to take because it actually helps your immune system.
Do you feel like there's any truth, or do you think this is a total conspiracy that the masks are a way to take power from the people? That they
I wear a mask every time I'm in a public place. I wear a mask, and I don't feel like I have an iota of power taken away from me by that.
do
I
you
actually think to myself.
do you think there's going to come a day
20
where they
years-
say no
I'm
more?
not gonna be alive 20 years from now. 5 years down the line, if there was a particularly bad cold and flu season, I might wear a mask into a grocery store.
Okay, that's something. That's fine. You know,
In places where there's lots of people in a small thing.
okay, wearing a mask, I believe this. I mean, nobody knows for sure. There is no study done on the masks yet. There's really.
Oh no, there is. We just don't do it. Like if you were in Asia, like there was a flu called the Hong Kong flu, which hit.
Yeah, they were already set up to wear masks. I get
No,
it.
in 1898, there was an argument between the doctors, and there were doctors that were saying that it was caused by this one thing, and you shouldn't wear masks. And there were these sort of upstart doctors, younger doctors, who said, "We think this is airborne, and wear a mask. It's helpful." They all went to treat these people, and all the famous doctors that didn't wear a mask died, and all the ones that wore a mask did it. That's the kernel by which the Asian area of the world will, during almost any flu epidemic, wear a mask, and they haven't had really a problem with it, and it does help. Is it immunity? No, but it helps.
Here's
You know,
so, but you shouldn't believe the numbers that the Chinese are saying about the number of deaths that they've had.
why wouldn't you believe? Why wouldn't you believe their numbers from 1912?
No, I'm talking
You know,
about
these are situations where it was a third. No, I think that I mean the truth is their numbers are believable, but what you're talking about, but in order to do that, what you're talking about freedom-wise is that their lockdowns are draconian.
number two. They did not report their cases properly.
Well, I mean, in our lockdown at its very worst, I could still have scotch and sushi delivered to my house,
Totally, I agree with you, but I'm talking
which is a
about
huge difference than what China had.
China lied completely about
I
the.
mean, no, they literally parts of those things like they had military people with guns keeping people in Wuhan.
Yes, they were
Yeah.
like handing water,
That is a restriction on your freedoms,
and they
an obvious one.
well.
But
What happens though if you continue to give your freedoms up, give your rights away one by one, and
I mean, what right am I giving up by wearing a mask?
What about the fact? No, I'm not talking about the mask, but the mask. What about the lockdowns where the people are losing their livelihood and their businesses?
People are losing. Like that's the other part about it is that we are hit super hard economically here in Florida without lockdowns. Places are closing left and right. I went to the place the bakery that I would normally go for bread because I was trying to get some rye bread because I hadn't been there in a while. I went there and they were closed because of lockdown. People weren't going to this bakery anymore. So I had to find another bakery.
They're going to be able to afford the rent at their bakery and keep the bakery.
Yeah, no, because people weren't
How
buying.
able to keep it until they go bankrupt.
Well, no, I think there are things going like that's something I do when I drive around and deliver people food. Is I look at I see places that close, and I see places like I know I said to you last time, like the mattress firm closed. The mattress firms are like the roaches of business.
Well, why?
They stay open. They stay open in almost everything, and they closed. The Denny's closed.
Feel about closing? How do you feel about watching that happen in front of your face? Like watching that happen right in front of your eyes?
It's bothersome, and it's primarily because, and the whole thing to me is that we're not going to be economically better until we can put COVID behind us, and we should do everything we can do to put COVID behind us as quick as we can.
Do you think we should stay locked down?
I think that I actually said this because I was driving. You know, when it came out, I signed up to drive food around because I thought to myself, I had already gotten sick. I believed I had already gotten sick, and I got a Tesla. I thought that I could do some good here. I really believe that they should have had more directed lockdowns. Like you could say to every type of business, "Hey, you want to have a car wash? Tell me how you're going to keep it safe, and then we'll say okay." And I think you could have a car wash, like what if you go right now to like Jiffy Lube, get your oil,
have a car wash, dude, and be safe. I would hope.
No, if I go to Jiffy Lube right now, right, you know what they do is they don't let you leave the car, so you stay in the car and they change it out.
Okay.
They change out your oil, and this way you're separated from all of their people by the windows in your car.
Thousands of dollars to get their restaurant ready to be able to serve food outside, and then the governor turns around and tells them, after you did all this work, invested all this money to keep your business going, now we're just going to tell you that you can't let people sit outside and eat.
Well, I mean,
California is doing that. New York is doing
in places that are depending on how those things are pegged to the rate of infection, from what I understand. And I do think that you could be smarter about it. But at the same time, I'm looking at it like this, like,
the movie.
If I want to support a restaurant, why do I need to sit there and eat there to support that restaurant? I mean, we should be looking at this like we're all in this together. And the easiest thing for them is for me to take a carry out.
Fine, that's up to you. But why can't people, if they choose to want to go there and sit outside and have their food, then they should be allowed to? It's like
because science says that it would lead to greater amounts of
science is there's
medicine
on this.
There is no science on this. Yes, there is.
No, it's going to kill.
We've known about infectious diseases for a long time.
Right. It's not killing people the way that it used to because we have treatments for people now. And
that is something that American medicine is very good at. We're good at keeping people alive.
How are we the only country that has 5 times more death than every other country? We have 5 times
because we really didn't do much about it, and we have a large portion of our population, a sizable minority that wanted the rules.
What could we have done?
Well, it's like this. Like I said, it's about I understand.
Just tell me what.
No, it's like basically it's the thing is that we could have cared about our neighbor more.
Like, what do you mean by that? What does that mean?
It means like don't go into places you don't need to go. Don't go into place. The big thing about the lockdown is the lockdown was pulled short, and it did work at one point, but the problem is that right now it's selective, and that's if we had the point of them, like the $600 stimulus, like the check that came at the beginning was we were supposed to pay businesses and people to stay home for a period until we got this under control.
We paid them $600 for like 8 months of fucking staying home.
Well, $1,800 for 8 months staying home, but that wasn't enough because in most of America right now, New York's not overrun in their hospitals, but most of America. Like they said that, like that thing with the Nashville bomber, and I'm not getting into politics of that.
Most people moved out of New York, dude, as fast as they could.
I mean, it's still the largest population in America, but Nashville said they were lucky this guy warned everybody because they had like 8 ICU beds left when that bomb happened.
That was a different. Yeah,
it's a weird thing, but the truth is they had 8 ICU beds. If this had harmed 112 people, there would have been unnecessary deaths. Thankfully, I mean, it's the weirdest thing in the world. The guy warned everybody, which is strange, and I'm happy for it. Don't get me wrong. You're gonna.
Do you remember the underground, the weathermen,
I do remember Weather Underground.
Like that, domestic terrorism. They were fighting for the environment. They were fighting to get out of.
But more what they did was like they would bomb a place they knew was empty. Like they would bomb like a ski resort in the summer. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. The IRA did that a couple times where they warned people to get out of a building.
For sure, even we do that in foreign countries. We'll drop.
But it's rare. It's rare for domestic terrorism. You know.
It's
But anyway. But the point being
Yeah.
is that our hospitals are pretty close to being overrun. Like the guy from
But-
when they did the announcement in Nashville, they said that.
Okay, but being on lockdown then isn't working. Then if the hospitals are filled up and stuff like that, we've been on
But
lockdown.
there really aren't that many lockdowns. No, New York has hospital beds. Large cities tend to have a few hospital beds. You know, because one thing you have is you have like 40 hospitals,
I don't
whereas
see any hospital.
Nashville has like 6.
No hospital is full around here. Like I don't see
Right.
the
That's
hospital
because of their lockdowns. It really is. People are less sick because they're keeping people away.
locked down and they're running out of hospital beds. You know, you see the same thing on
In
TV,
parts of California.
but they're locked down completely. Like there's no gym open. Malpow said he has to wear a mask walking
Yeah,
his dog now. Who the
wow,
fuck?
that's really. I mean, I would think that you could walk your dog without a mask, but you should probably have one with you in case you get into a crowd. You know that
I
would be
want
my.
around me anyways, and I'm like, just stay away from me. But like, then you shouldn't. I mean, I totally will respect the mask thing, okay? But I just want to know if you ever picture a day where they're gonna be like, okay, you don't have to wear your mask today. And seriously, do you ever see that day coming? Can you picture them being like, COVID is not a problem today, or like, is it gonna?
I do see it. I mean, what it takes is we have to get to a point where 70% of the population or more has either had it and built up antibodies or had the vaccination. You know, and the vaccination is to get to that 70% number. So
But
if we just let people get sick, it would have taken about 10 years. But with the vaccination, we can get to that. I mean, I think that, I mean, you know me and Dr. Fossey. Dr.
Yeah.
Fossey said that everything should be back to normal by August of 2022, probably sooner. And I do think that as this year ends, we're going to see things getting better. We said that about baseball, is that we foresee a situation where there's not many fans or no fans in the stands April 1st, but we both see a good number of fans in the stands in September. You know,
Okay,
things are going to get better.
but what's the difference between the virus? Okay, we have somebody saying the virus is real, the crisis is engineered. I would say that the virus is real.
Yeah,
but
the crisis engineered. That's crazy talk to me.
no, it's not though. Think about it.
Only because it's talk
you to
and it's
try.
crazy.
It's crazy to think about the shit that's going on in the country today. It is crazy, but you can't just keep saying that it's totally crazy when a lot of people are starting to question it, and you have to question.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of misinformation going around. That's something you're
You
saying.
want
And
a Great Reset.
yeah, no, and I say misinformation. I'm saying that people are getting information in what we used to call. When I was a stockbroker, we used to always complain about the guys saying, you know, we would do this research and we would set up a program for somebody, and then they would go, you know, I like what you did, Doug, but my barber told me. And that's what we have now, is that people are believing the barbers over the stockbrokers. They're believing
You're
they're
believing-
believing the counter waitress over the doctor. And
That's
that's where you have the problem. The questions come because there's enough people.
dude.
There's enough people who are talking to bad sources, talking to each other, that they have this thing. It's called Dunning-Kruger system. There's the Dunning-Kruger effect. They think they are 100% right,
What if I told you
but they're not.
checkers are completely paid for by the social media, like that Facebook
Oh
has
yeah, no, it's a service. They're going to pay for it. But
How
the truth is,
independent, and why are they
well, I
being?
mean, it's like, you know,
It's
I mean,
called-
how is you know, I mean, like, I deliver food for a sushi restaurant. How am I independent from them? I mean, at some level, I count on them for that. But if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. They're independent. I mean, how independent is anybody that does business with somebody else? Yes, you're a little bit dependent, but the truth is this, and the reason why the fact checkers, what you look for in the fact checkers is
they're liars.
is consistency, and the fact that other fact checkers
They're using as
say similar things.
when
Because
says
because like at the end of the day, if at the end of the day the Los Angeles Dodgers win the World Series, right? we can have a third of the population run around saying, they didn't win the World Series, but when everybody that saw the victory, the people that were actually there, because maybe they threw it on my TV, then you go, oh, that's probably true. And so what happens is something happens, and Washington Post investigates it, and New York Times investigates it, and Newsweek investigates it, and then Der Stadt in Germany investigates it, and The Guardian investigates it, and they all come up with a story that is 85-90% exactly the same. You kind of get an idea of what actually happened on, rather than some guy in a YouTube video who's putting out this information, or my barber or my waitress.
Douglas, is there a possibility that all of these mainstream media networks and the papers and stuff, outlets that we used to trust, like New York Times and Washington Post and USA Today and all of these, is there a possibility that they're colluding with each other to put out and shape a narrative?
I would say that all right, it's a non-zero possibility, but it's under the,
what about if I told you
3 or 4% threshold.
How about the fact that when one fact checker uses their resources from resources that you don't trust, and they're all using the same media outlets as resources, and think how easy it would be for them to say, okay, we're going to publish this, and we're going to, then you're going
to, it would be a conspiracy that would involve millions of people, literally millions of people.
No,
and to keep 1 million people silent on this is the next impossibility, because you would have to get everybody who works for Washington Post to sign off on it, everyone who works for The Guardian to sign off on it, everyone who works for Al Jazeera to sign off on it, everyone who works at Fox News to sign off on it, everyone who works at virtually everyone to sign off on it, because they come to a certain point, and you cannot. I don't know of any situation where you could have that number of people keep a secret that big for that long. Somebody would break the thing, and not just some weirdo on the scout skirts.
There have absolutely been.
There are people that are barely tied to the thing that say things because they know that they can get clicks, which give them money. How come the only reason they put those things on there is for the money? And it's like they're totally dependent on getting click views. So the more outrageous thing that they say, the more people will go to that site. And
stop believing that everything they say is true, and stop and realize the difference between an opinion and a fact. These people are pundits. That's what they are. They're opinions.
That's the thing. There is such thing as an opinion column, and there's such a thing as an opinion show.
There's no difference anymore, and you need to be able to.
No, there's only no difference on conservative media. It's like most people who watch Fox News. Most people who watch Fox News are watching opinion shows, and there's nothing.
None of
your nose. I mean, there are some like on MSNBC, but most of the stuff that you get on your local coverage, most stuff you get on CNN, most stuff you get on most of these stations is the most objective coverage as you want.
It's not.
I was watching the New York Times today. I have this thing where you can monitor on Twitter their corrections, right? This is the kind of thing New York Times does. Like they had a puzzle, like the New York Times crossword puzzle, where they asked the question, who was the first puppet to testify in front of Congress, right? And the answer they wanted you to say was Elmo, but somebody went to him and said, no, Sherry Lewis brought lamb chop there 20 years before that. So they actually published that correction. That's what you do when you make a mistake.
Right. That's
the reason why you can trust them. We all know that human beings make mistakes. And that's how detailed they are on the stuff. Like they will say that stuff. That's why they're the people you trust. You do not trust your barber.
That's ridiculous. They put the corrections somewhere deep into an article.
No, they are something you have to look for, but you actually can follow New York Times corrections, and a guy throws those up for you, so it's something there for you.
Holy shit, it's unbelievable.
You have to talk to your mom, man.
My mother, what? I just like, if we disagree, that's fine. I just want you to be open to the idea
I'm open to that. So I'm open to the idea that some people will believe just about anything as long as it agrees with their worldview. I know that exists.
Yeah, is unbiased. Do you think that Wikipedia?
I think that the media is there are two things that go on in the world that I believe. All right, one is I think the media is biased toward the status quo. Is that is that who like no matter no, because they need access in order to survive. So they're not gonna try to piss people out. They're not gonna try to piss people off that they need access for. They're also, because of the nature of media in America, they're also a little biased toward the wealthy. Like, for instance, in Orlando Sentinel, which is a decent newspaper, right, never ran a story about the polluted aquifer because the Orlando Sentinel's ink is what polluted it, right? Okay. There's that. The other part is I actually believe that the truth is a little bit progressive because it means whenever we learn something new, we're changing the past. We're changing the future, actually. If we learn when Galileo said that the Earth revolves around the sun, that was progressive.
You guys aren't progressive, though. You guys are totally not progressive.
I'm moderate.
What you guys are trying to do is censor people that don't agree with you. You are trying to.
No. This is the thing about censorship is that we should have almost unlimited censorship, but if you have a group that's goal is to eventually censor the truth, that group has to be segregated.
Well, that group is the fucking Dems, dude.
That group is the crazy Republicans, and it's been different things in the past.
What are you talking about? It's not Republicans censoring.
There are 150. Like it's one thing. Like whenever a Republican friend of mine points to like a crazy Democrat, it's always some.
You don't think it's
always some professor in California or in Pennsylvania or whatever. There are 150 right now serving in Congress Republicans that think that this election was stolen.
It what? Wait a minute.
They actually elect the crackpots.
They broke
in.
You know that they broke into the machines yesterday and
there are people. There's a guy elected in Georgia saying that COVID is a hoax 8 days ago.
I gotta tell you, dude. I know you don't want to hear this, but it's true. Yes.
No, it's not true. No, the one thing I got out of this was there was a time when I thought to myself, how the hell could people elect certain people? Maybe there is something going wrong.
About the election.
The truth is, they've investigated 5 different states and found almost nothing. Literally, they found 2 cases of fraud, and they were both Trump supporters.
What?
According to like, there was a case of fraud in Philadelphia where a Trump supporter wanted to do a second vote for his deceased mother. I'm not saying it changes anything.
Because that's all the media wants to tell you. But that's
the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, is that once you accept that whatever we're told can't possibly be true, anything can be possible. Whatever you're telling to me is equally as likely as
this is
aliens from the planet Saturn have sabotaged our election.
Literally.
How prove to me that aliens from the planet Saturn haven't sabotaged our election?
Douglas,
whatever you say, I can just say that's what they want you to believe.
Because
that's what it is. When you go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, and I've been there personally.
You are so adamant that there's no cheating, but like you're so angry.
There's no significant cheating. No, there is cheating. In Florida is one of the worst states for cheating because.
Why don't you let people look? Why won't you let anybody look at it? They've been.
There is nothing that I'm not letting people look at. What are you not getting to see?
Why don't you? We haven't had access to the machines. We haven't had access to the vote.
They've given them
ballots until now. We actually got some.
And right now, people are going to be excited, but they're going to find very little.
Why do you have a problem with them looking?
I don't. I actually don't. I'm happy. I'm happy. I was telling you this. I'm happy about it.
No, you're not.
In my head that there's a chance that our elections were stolen. The fact that these guys have gone to these great lengths to try to create a story and can't find anything,
Douglas,
it lets me know that our elections are relatively up and up, which makes me happy.
What do you mean they can't find anything? Where have they been able to look? They've only been able to look at 22 machines, and they found a bunch off those 22 machines that they were able to look at.
They didn't. They found one thing that was credited to human error, and the guys even attested to the fact.
What are you talking about? They said
about that one machine up in Minnesota.
Hold on a minute. Updates on these machines had not been updated for 15 Microsoft updates. 15. is that's okay with you. There was no lock on this. Everybody was sharing username and password. Everybody had the same one, so anybody could go in there and do whatever they want, and nobody would know who it was. How convenient for them. Not only that, but why is the log missing? Literally, the log is missing. The only
Everything everything that you are saying, people said about the Bush election in 2000. People said about
what the
I'm just saying like this. It's like it's only an issue when your guy doesn't win. I feel comfort in the fact
everybody
that there are 5 different states that they brought together, and in all 5 states they found next to nothing.
Did you know that 7 states sent dueling electors to the? Did you know that there's 7 states that have?
That is sedition. That is actually something that's a punishable crime. You're basically usurping the Constitution.
How?
Because you're denying the states their legitimate right. You're denying the states their legitimate right to choose their electors.
What? No,
that's in the Constitution.
No, when there's
you can't have a shadow constitution. You can't have a shadow government send 12 people.
Do you listen to your girlfriend Hillary, dude? She said that Biden should not concede under any circumstances.
What that was a talking that was a talking point. Like there are people that are still mad about Gore.
You're kidding me, right?
No, there are people that are still mad about Gore because Gore conceded. There are people that are still mad about Gore because Gore conceded. That's what he was talking to. But the truth is,
telling me to question.
No, I have no problem. I have no problem with Trump litigating stuff. I have no problem with them trying to find out the truth as best they can. But when Republican governors tell them that this didn't happen,
what didn't happen?
And what in Georgia, like that was one thing. Republican governors,
Brian Kemp
is a. I mean, the reason I'm happy there's 5 instances is because if it was only Brian Kemp would have flipped the election.
They're liars.
They couldn't do it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Everybody that doesn't agree with the bizarre 1 million man conspiracy becomes a liar and untrustworthy. I'm a liar and untrustworthy. And the Pope is a liar and untrustworthy. My mom's a liar and untrustworthy.
What about did you see the video of them counting ballots and from under the table and like? What do you think of? You don't think that's fraud right there? They told.
I think that it might very well be a fraudulent video. Yeah, it could be fraud.
No, it's a fraud
I watched a bunch of these videos and I never saw
video footage that the arena gave to them, dude. Literally from the arena, the cameras at the arena where they had the vote. This wasn't a Democrat or a Republican thing. The people that own the arena gave the footage to the people investigating. They asked for it. They gave it to them.
I think we've gone too far.
Are you going to tell me for real that you think the video is not real?
I've seen the people from especially from right-wing sites like Project Veritas pump out so many fraudulent videos that it's hard to believe them.
You haven't watched the project.
If you can't believe CNN because they've made like 14 big mistakes in 20 years, then you can't go to this thing. It's like saying like I got a problem. Going from CNN to these weird things is like saying, I might have a drink. I might have a drinking problem. I might drink too much, and I'm going to solve that by stopping drinking. But now I'm going to shoot up heroin.
Okay,
you're going to something that's even worse.
You see on you're literally trying to tell me that this video could be fraudulent, even though it has.
No, it's likely fraudulent. If there is nothing that has generally been accepted as actually happening, and you're always going to get 1 or 2. Go back to the 2000 black box stuff. And you'll see Democrats saying just the crazy. No, I'm just saying you'll see Democrats saying the exact crazy things that people on the right are saying today, and it was proved that they were most likely false. But they did get a change though, in that they got the black box to have a receipt, so that people could trust them more.
I don't understand how you don't believe your own eyes. I just don't get how you don't believe your own eyes. Like you watched it happen, and you're telling me.
I watched a guy with my own eyes on a tape make a shot through the size of a swamp rat and blow up a Death Star, and I don't think that happened.
Douglas,
I did.
So
I didn't see that.
You don't trust your own, you
don't trust your own eyes. Did he blow up that Death Star?
The people that actually did that all the people in charge of the election, they actually admitted that happened, but they said that there was a Republican there. They said that they did think they were going to go home, but then they got a call and they were told that they had to stay later. That's the excuse they're giving. But they're
That's the fake news end of the thing, and that's the sorry part. My hope is that in 6 months that just the way that everyone turned, who was a big fan of George W. Bush, people will just stop thinking about this and we'll move forward.
Shit. Dude,
But it is almost 2:00, and you need to call your mother.
my mom went to
And
bed.
we've gone too far.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we still like each other tomorrow, so that's
No. We're friends as best as you can be if somebody never met each other.
Yeah, or as best as you could be with somebody who just you feel like you
As feet in reality.
we both think that each other is crazy. Like that's like the biggest problem that we have in this country. Like we should not be divided. We all need to be respectful. That
You can see where it really came from the fact that a group got together, and this wasn't Trump by any stretch of imagination. I mean, Trump is the necessary ending point for this Republican plan, but people came together to give people a reworked story, to rewrite current history, and that's one of the problems. We all sort of trusted Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite, and to the best we know, they've made a few mistakes, but for the most part, they had America's best interest at heart, and sometimes they were lied to by the government, which made them wrong.
I don't think that's the case though this time.
But now it's like people who the craziest thing to me is that the people who don't believe the news are getting their information from sources that are 10 times worse.
I get my information from the source. I look at documents. I go to the court websites. I look at.
No, you're saying that these weird films, but the truth is, I actually don't want to stay up too much later.
Okay, gotta go then. Okay,
it's nothing personal, but I told you at the front I was going to go 10-1.
I'm good, totally. I was gonna go call my mom, but
let's set up to talk baseball somewhere in the near future.
Let's do it, dude. Let's do a mock draft soon. Okay.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Okay, dude, bye.
Bye.